The story begins with the main character slicing vegetables at remarkable speed as he rushes to prepare a fresh salad for his business. Right after, he cracks an egg into a hot pan that hisses the moment it touches the surface. Once everything is in place, he announces that he is finally ready for the grand opening. At a distance, a group of men in suits watches his food truck, noting that he seems only minutes away from starting service. Around the same time, a citywide alert about Go Daechun's food truck spreads instantly, setting off chaos everywhere. People on a bus beg the driver to hurry. Teachers walk out of their classrooms mid-lecture, heading straight for the truck. Office workers ask their bosses for sudden leave, unwilling to miss the chance to taste his food. Inside a monitoring center, someone stares at a screen in disbelief as the crowd number jumps from 100,000 to more than 1 million. Seeing the growing frenzy, a mysterious woman decides she must move now before it is too late. She insists that this time she will not let Daechun slip away. Soon, countless girls begin sprinting, driving, and doing whatever they must to reach the food truck. One young woman in particular looks overwhelmed with anticipation as she makes her way through the streets. The tiny food truck has somehow become the focal point of nearly the entire city. And there he stands, saying that for once he is not late to open shop. His earlier preparations turn into a lineup of dishes so varied and flavorful that even the ratatouille critic would be struck silent. This is Go Daechun, the hero of our story and a genuine culinary master. From his food truck, he greets the enormous crowd rushing toward him from every direction. The crowd erupts with excitement at the sight and smell of his food, and the place is surrounded by a soft pink glow. It seems the charm of the cook, not just the taste of his dishes, might be part of the frenzy. But before this entire scene, there is a flashback of Doc sitting alone in a dark room, lost in his phone. His screen is flooded with messages about loans and overdue payments. We discover he lost 300 million won in a scam promising big profits for buying items and writing glowing reviews. A news broadcast confirms hundreds of others fell for the same trick. What crushed him most was the sting of being fooled, which eventually cost him his day job. Feeling hopeless, he bought a stack of alcohol to drown the weight of it all. That night he wandered the snowy streets, drinking alone, getting more and more wasted. Then, out of nowhere, he caught the smell of something incredible drifting from a small food truck. The sign read Go Daechun. He checked his pockets and realized he barely had enough coins for anything. The cook noticed his gloomy expression and asked him why he looked so down. But the drunken man snapped back, telling him not to act like he understood his problems. He glared hard at the chef, suspicion and resentment filling his eyes. The cook, wearing a bandana labeled Daechun, simply laughed and offered him free takoyaki, assuming hunger was the real issue. Our main character practically drooled at the scent, even while doubting the stranger's kindness. Still, he took a giant bite of the warm, juicy octopus ball. The moment it touched his tongue, the flavor hit him like a cosmic explosion. The soft batter and chewy octopus sent him soaring through an imaginary galaxy. The sauce and toppings wrapped around him like a spinning Milky Way. He felt as if an entire universe melted inside him, warming a part of his soul he thought he had lost. The comfort was so overwhelming that tears rolled down his face. With a playful tone, the chef asked what he thought. Crying openly, the man said that he wished he could make others feel exactly what he was feeling at that moment. Sensing the fire in his eyes, Daechun asked him what he was waiting for. Smiling kindly, the chef invited him aboard the food truck. 3 years passed, and the young man worked tirelessly to repay Uncle Daechun's kindness. He keeps a photo of his mentor in the truck, always feeling like the debt in his heart can never truly be paid. The old chef's scoldings still echo in his memory, a constant guide. So he vows that the name Go Daechun will become famous across the country. Meanwhile, in a luxury district, a high-end restaurant bustles with waiters preparing for an exclusive guest. 2 employees whisper among themselves, wondering if anyone could really rent out an entire 3-star restaurant. That guest is the only daughter of the SH Group, the richest conglomerate in the world. Her name is Nam Si-hee, and an army of chefs and waiters stands ready to serve only her. On their phones, images show her flying to school by helicopter and renting private islands for an afternoon break. The staff envy her extravagant life. Yet her expression as she cuts into her meal shows nothing but frustration. Every move she makes is judged by those around her, and the emptiness of her routine weighs on her. The dishes set before her have no sincerity, only luxury, only money. Then something unthinkable happens. She suddenly throws up food prepared by one of the world's top chefs. Wiping her mouth, She realizes wealth cannot fill the hollow space inside her. She sets her fork down, feeling trapped in a glass box. She closes her eyes, sensing herself fading piece by piece. Back in the present, the city's traffic crawls to a halt. Inside her car, Si-hee says she cannot breathe. The driver asks if she wants the window opened, but she simply smiles and writes sorry on the glass before stepping out. In a moment of daring grace, she leaps across cars and escapes her driver. Desperate, the man calls Chief Kim to report that the young miss has run away. Si-hee wanders freely, finally feeling alive. She leaves everything behind in the car to avoid being tracked. She is determined to live as the real Nam Si-hee for a change. Still, she wonders how long she will last with only a few checks, each worth 10 million won. While walking down the street, she spots a help wanted sign. The pay is 13,201 won an hour, and she decides to accept the job. At work, she greets customers with a bright smile. Soon a huge man approaches, questioning the buy one, get one free deal. She calmly confirms it and hands over the items, leaving him stunned. Moments later, a drunk man tries to trade a live chicken for a bottle of soju. To everyone's shock, she accepts the chicken without hesitation. A worried customer asks if she is all right as the store erupts into chaos, with the chicken running wild and people passed out on the floor. She responds with a thumbs up. The owner then storms out and orders everyone to leave. It becomes clear that Si-hee did not perform well and ends up fired from the small convenience store. Somewhere else, another boss kicks her out for dressing like a spoiled heiress. She tries again but gets rejected once more. Hearing that he refuses to work with someone like her, still determined, she tries a corner coffee shop next. There, she is confused, unsure what she has done wrong since she tried to be polite and cheerful. She gets her coffee and asks the price, showing the boss her checks. Sensing an opportunity, he claims the drink costs 60 million won. Si-hee freezes, stunned by the ridiculous price. She apologizes quickly and rushes out while the barista watches in confusion. The boss notices she left the checks behind and tries to call after her. Defeated, she collapses on the sidewalk, overwhelmed by how difficult life is for ordinary people. Crying, she admits to herself that without money and status she feels like nothing. Then a mouth-watering smell reaches her. It is coming from the food truck of our protagonist. The aroma comes from fish-shaped pastries sizzling away. He asks how many she would like, but she can only stare, captivated by the scent. Jun-ho thinks that the girl looks a little strange for staring at him with such intensity. The usually confident Si-hee is completely speechless. Embarrassed, she explains that she has been fired from every job she tried and asks if he accepts credit. He turns down her request, while the ghost of his master mutters that she does not even have 5 won to her name. Her expression falls apart, and once again she feels powerless. The sight reminds the protagonist of his own past, when he felt just as useless. Moved by that memory, he invites her into the food truck, surprising her. He tells her to start by making a fish-shaped pastry. Si-hee fumbles through the steps and he urges her to hurry, saying that he is starving. Unsure of the process, she pours the batter into the mold the way she assumes is right. She then adds the red bean filling, trying to guess the proper amount. After closing the mold, she waits anxiously, praying she got it right. But her first attempt ends in total failure. The pastry comes out burnt, blackened beyond saving. She apologizes, feeling ridiculous for failing at something so simple. To her shock, he picks up the ruined pastry and takes a bite. He says that it is still edible, then hands her a single coin as payment for her effort. After that, he asks whether she wants to work with him, since she has no job. The heiress hesitates, thinking over this sudden offer. When she does not answer fast enough, he says that she does not have to accept. But Si-hee then grabs his hand with the coin in it and accepts with great enthusiasm. She calls him Miss Duck-chun in her excitement, thrilled to finally have something resembling work. When the day ends, she beams as she thanks a customer. With her help, Jun-ho manages to sell out the entire food truck's stock. She then asks eagerly if she was helpful. He becomes awkward, unsure how to respond. He shows her the box of burnt pastries she made and tells her it was just average. Si-hee sighs in relief and promises she will do better tomorrow. He thinks that it does not matter what she calls him, as long as he can make his uncle's name known across the country. Seeing she is cold, he offers her his jacket for the walk home. The simple gesture touches her deeply, and she presses the jacket to her face. Meanwhile, the ghost of Uncle Jun-ho is overjoyed. proud of the protagonist for acting like a gentleman. Back at the truck, Jun-ho offers to give her a ride. An awkward silence settles between them. Then Si-hee admits that she finally found a job but has nowhere to sleep. The revelation shocks both him and the old ghost. He cannot believe the truth. He never imagined a girl dressed like a celebrity might be homeless. He offers her the day's wages and tells her to find a place to stay. She blushes a deep red when he gives her the money. Watching her, he thinks she really knows how to make someone worry. With no clear plan, he simply drives the truck for a while. For dinner, he prepares ramen for her. He explains that ramen is all they have at the moment. The young woman lights up with excitement while holding a small cat. She recalls a fancy seafood noodle dish she ate long ago. She says she has only had ramen once, and he assumes she was so poor she could afford it only that one time. In reality, she never ate simple food because of strict diets. She hugs the cat and comments that it looks a lot like Mr. Jun-ho. He explains that the cat is just a stray that visits from time to time. She says she thought this place was a shelter for it. But he reveals that this is his home, catching her completely off guard. When the ramen is ready, he hands her a bowl. She takes one bite and her eyes shine at the flavor. She devours the food and says it tastes incredible, which leaves him embarrassed. She adds that the noodles are spicy yet soft and asks how he achieved that texture. His secret appears. He beats an egg with a little milk to create a smooth mixture. Then he mixes the cooked noodles thoroughly in the bowl so each strand is coated. Finally, he pours the broth carefully, completing the dish. With her stomach full, she thanks him, saying she cannot remember the last time she ate so much. When it is time to sleep, she says she will stay on the floor so she does not overstep. He closes a curtain and says they can share the space without any problem. Lying down, she asks if he feels cramped, but he claims he does not. The ghost uncle mutters that she is the perfect daughter-in-law and calls the protagonist a fool for not realizing it. Si-hee thanks him for the day, saying she wanted to feel capable on her own, and that he is the first person who ever believed in her. She says that for the first time she lived as the real Nam Si-hee instead of the rich girl. Because he gave her such a precious day, she promises she will change his life. She then asks how much it would cost for him to fulfill his promise. When he does not answer, she decides to open the curtain. She finds him sleeping soundly, completely unaware, his ears plugged. Suddenly, a blinding light fills the room as the roar of a helicopter explodes through the night. The window shatters. A special agent announces over the radio that he has located the young miss. He grabs Si-hee and carries her to the waiting helicopter while she screams for Mr. Jun-ho. The ghost watches in anguish as she is taken away, but the protagonist stays asleep while the old man's spirit cries for his lost daughter-in-law. The next morning, sunlight glints off broken glass scattered across the floor. Jun-ho wakes in confusion, with no idea what happened. He stares at the mess in disbelief. Soon after, he begins his usual routine at the food truck. His master's ghost laments, saying he truly believed he had finally gained a daughter-in-law. As the truck runs, a huge screen displays an advertisement featuring Si-hee, and the ghost recognizes her instantly. He shouts her name, stunned as the truth clicks into place. He wonders how he failed to recognize her earlier. The promise she made and her question about the cost echo in his memory. The ghost panics, calling his nephew an idiot for missing such a golden chance. He remembers her chaotic departure and believes they will never meet again. But surprising them both, the heiress suddenly appears and says she has come back. The protagonist asks what happened, since she vanished and shattered his window. She hands him a check as thanks for the previous day and for the trouble she caused. The ghost is stunned when he sees the amount. 1 billion won. The protagonist begins to feel suspicious. He studies the check while the ghost continues to gape at it. Si-hee ignores their reactions and asks what today's special is. Thinking the check is fake, he tosses it in the trash and says today's special is fried chicken. She becomes thrilled at the idea of tasting the famous Korean chicken. The ghost panics and screams that the money is real as he desperately reaches into the trash for the check. Si-hee asks if she can help, and the old ghost scolds her for not noticing the mistake. Jun-ho starts sweating when he sees her reaction. Si-hee is shocked, saying she knows 15 languages but has never made batter before. Even so, she ties her hair back with determination and says she will try her best. He watches her with a bored stare, unimpressed by her spirit. He warns her that her clothes might get dirty, and she asks if her outfit is appropriate. Then she begins to change right there in the food truck. She takes off her oversized clothes and tosses them aside. Underneath, she reveals a snug and comfortable workout set. The protagonist turns bright red, stunned by how revealing it is. Then Si-hee grabs a bowl and dumps its contents straight into the hot oil. The oil erupts violently, startling her. Pieces of chicken fly through the air as she screams at the explosion. Acting fast, he shields her from the splattering oil with his body. He asks if she is all right while the hot drops burst around them like sparks. Her heart races as she looks at him, wondering what to do with this amazing man inches from her. She whispers his name, completely hypnotized. Just then, someone calls out for Si-hee, snapping his attention away. Si-hee is stunned and says her mother's name as the two remain frozen in that close moment. A flashback surges through her mind. In a recording studio, someone announces that the chairwoman of the SH group has arrived. This is Yoon-hee Young, Si-hee's mother, an intimidating and powerful woman. Without wasting words, the chairwoman immediately asks where her daughter, the heiress Nam Si-hee, has gone. One trembling employee answers that the young miss has not arrived yet and cannot be reached. With a cold stare, the woman calls for Secretary Kim, and the loyal assistant responds at once. Yoon-hee Young decides that she will personally search for her missing daughter. Back in the present, our protagonist feels the atmosphere outside the food truck change. Uncle Doc Chun, Ghost, panics when he realizes that the chairwoman of the SH group herself has appeared. Several men in suits suddenly surge forward and move to restrain Doc. He is subdued in seconds and forced to kneel in front of the formidable chairwoman. Secretary Kim, standing tall and intimidating, asks if she should deal with the man now. The chairwoman orders everyone to calm down and says that she will listen to what they have to say first. Sitting in an imposing chair like she owns the world, she announces that she will hear him out, regardless of what kind of excuse he offers. She even adds that these might be his last words, which terrifies Jun-ho. Jun-ho explains that he and Si-hee only work together, insisting that there is nothing more between them. The heiress backs him up and says that her mother should believe what he is saying. The chairwoman then picks up a piece of fried chicken and asks curiously how much it costs. He answers that it is 10,000 won, and she reacts as if that is outrageous for a single piece. When he tries to clarify, she completely ignores him and turns a serious gaze on her daughter instead. She then asks if he even knows who the famous Nam Si-hee is. With a bored face, Doc replies that he has no idea who that could be. Si-hee's mother assumes he is pretending ignorance because of the status gap between them. Without softening her tone, she bluntly asks if he is in love with her precious daughter. Jun-ho answers directly that he does not like her at all. The chairwoman then faces Si-hee and calmly concludes that her daughter must be the one who is in love with him. With anger in her eyes, she demands to know if he spent the previous night with her daughter. Si-hee grows red with embarrassment as their conversation becomes more intense. The chairwoman, overwhelmed by the drama, suddenly faints, and Secretary Kim panics at her collapse. Annoyed, Jun-ho repeats that nothing happened between them the night before. When she recovers, the chairwoman steps closer and asks if he is at least dating her daughter. He denies it, but she keeps pressing and demands to know if he intends to marry her. With open contempt, she says that a street vendor like him has no right to even imagine such a thing. The protagonist is left speechless by her arrogance. The chairwoman then orders Secretary Kim to bring something special. The secretary opens a briefcase stuffed with money. The heiress and the ghost uncle both shout for the chairwoman to stop this insanity. She calmly offers 10 billion won, and the uncle's spirit is so thrilled that he already starts calling her mother-in-law. Banknotes fly through the air like a rain of cash. Si-hee is horrified, hiding her face as she watches her mother's stunt. The chairwoman, on the other hand, keeps her cold, shrewd expression, completely unfazed. She tells him to take the money and marry her daughter. He stands there lost, bombarded by a proposal and a mountain of cash right in front of him. Si-hee is humiliated and can barely lift her head as the two stare at each other. The chairwoman ignores the discomfort and continues insisting that he accept the money. Seeing this, Si-hee screams at her mother to stop this absurd scene. The chairwoman dismisses her protests and, with a mocking tone, repeats that he should marry her daughter. Jun-ho, sweating nervously, repeats the word, marriage, in disbelief in his own head. Si-hee hides behind her mother, dying of shame over the performance. With a superior look, the chairwoman remarks that there is one condition for the marriage. Before even hearing it, Jun-ho firmly declares that he is not interested. The chairwoman finds his defiance amusing and tells him not to be so scared yet. She reveals that he has to abandon the food truck and work for the SH group instead. She says he must be raised to the same social level as her daughter if he wants to marry her. At that, he slams his hand on the briefcase of money. With a dark expression, he asks if her true goal was the food truck all along. Moving closer, he says that he has a good nose for things like this, which clearly startles her. He leans in and says that he thinks she smells like a con artist. The chairwoman admits that she likes his spirit, but she adds a final condition. With a furious glare, she says that she despises any horse that cannot be tamed. Jun-ho grabs some food and declares that he will never hand over control to anyone. Turning his back on her, he says that she should not come looking for him again. He adds the same message for Nam Si-hee as well. Si-hee is heartbroken and reaches out to him, but he is already gone. Elsewhere, the towering headquarters of the SH group fills the city skyline. Inside, a polished nameplate marks the office of the chairwoman. In that office, Si-hee confronts her mother and says that she has spent her entire life obeying her wishes. She says that for the first time, she has something she wants for herself. She cries out that she found someone she likes and asks if money is really the problem. Her mother simply holds her coffee cup, silent and distant, while listening to her daughter's rant. Then she asks if Si-hee is looking down on the man because he is just a stray she picked up. The heiress is left breathless and unable to respond to her mother's cruelty. With a completely icy look, the chairwoman asks if her daughter is done with her little performance. She steps closer and says that she does not care who her daughter dates, because no one can ever stand on their level anyway. In a cold, dark tone, she says that she will allow her daughter to have that man. She adds that in order to keep him, Si-hee simply has to ensure that he can never again work in that pathetic food truck. Her mother intimidates her, saying that she must obey for the sake of the SH group and that she has to do as she is told, just like she always has. With tears filling her eyes, Si-hee feels cornered while her mother calls her a good girl. Meanwhile, life at the food truck appears to return to normal. The protagonist talks to his uncle's photo and says that he protected the truck his uncle left behind. The ghost complains that he threw away 10 billion won for that same business. Jun-ho's thoughts drift back to Nam Si-hee. He recalls how similar she seemed to him in the past but wonders if she only wanted the truck after all. Jun-ho taps the photo angrily as he realizes he was almost scammed again. Looking at his own reflection, he says that he will protect the food truck with his life. At the company, Secretary Kim hurls herself against a locked door, begging the young miss to calm down. Inside her room, Si-hee throws herself onto the bed and screams that everything is her mother's fault. In tears, she insists that 10 billion won means nothing to her and sobs over the fact that Jun-ho told her not to come back. She calls her mother terrible and manipulative, shaking with fear about what she might do next. She feels she has to protect him somehow. Then she remembers Jun-ho's serious but gentle face. She thinks about the moment he warmed her with his jacket, and that intense moment they shared in the food truck. With her cheeks burning, she admits to herself that she is already completely in love with him. Sitting up on the bed, she suddenly gets an idea. She shouts for her secretary at the top of her lungs. Rushing out, she grabs Secretary Kim and orders her to prepare everything immediately. With a fierce and determined look, she reveals her big plan, a proposal. Meanwhile, on a bright morning, the stray cat belonging to the food truck naps peacefully. Jun-ho wakes up and comments that the weather is perfect for business. He then frowns and wonders why a helicopter is so loud this early in the day. Looking up, he sees a helicopter airlifting his entire food truck into the sky. He freezes, unable to process what he is seeing. Then reality hits and he screams that his truck is being kidnapped. In a panic, he yells at the helicopter to stop at once, but of course no one listens. With no time to think, he starts sprinting after it. He soon realizes he cannot keep up and quickly rents a bike to chase the flying truck. Pedaling with everything he has, he struggles not to lose sight of it. Exhausted, he reaches a building and demands that they give his truck back. As he looks ahead, he is completely thrown off by what he finds. A brand new food truck stands there, a monstrous high-end model, wrapped in a huge gift ribbon. Slowly, its door opens like the curtains of a concert stage. To his astonishment, Si-hee appears inside, wearing a dazzling wedding gown. She calls his name with a loving gaze and a radiant smile. She says that she prepared all of this wholeheartedly, just for him. She happily tugs on the giant ribbon around the truck while he stands there speechless. On the side of the vehicle, The words SH Dining Cruise are written in elegant golden letters. She proudly says that this is an ultra-luxurious food truck built especially for him. She steps closer and says that from now on, the two of them will be together in that place. Furious, he slams her against the wall and demands to know what she has done. A flashback then shows Si-hee in a kitchen, wearing an apron and looking like a housewife. She tries to chop vegetables but clearly has no talent for it, until someone steps in to help. She reacts with surprise when a pair of hands gently guides hers. Jun-ho appears behind her and assists her, holding her hands with care. He tells her in a soft tone that he already warned her not to do anything risky. Flustered, she answers that she only wanted to be helpful to Mr. Jun-ho. Doc embraces her and says that her presence alone is already a gift. In an intensely romantic moment, he confesses his love and they share a passionate kiss. But it all turns out to be just a dream. In reality, Si-hee is leaning in and trying to kiss Secretary Kim. The secretary pulls away, confused, and asks what is so great about that man. She then remembers that the young Mrs. Simplest assets are worth around 900 billion won. On top of that, Si-hee owns a hidden art collection valued at 30 trillion won, as well as a private space station and fleets of secret submarines. The secretary practically has a breakdown, saying that compared to all that, poor Doc has nothing but one tiny little food truck. Si-hee explains that Jun-ho filled an emptiness inside her that nothing else ever could. She says that out of everything she owns, not a single thing was truly something she wanted. Now, for the first time, she has something she genuinely desires, and she declares that she has no intention of losing it no matter what. She thinks that the moment with him in the food truck felt like pure magic, a moment where her status did not matter at all. She believes that in that tiny space she discovered a kind of happiness that money can never buy. She insists that she prepared all of this for herself, simply because she wants to be happy. She adds that, of course, she also intends to make Mr. Jun-ho the happiest man alive. Comparing herself to Cinderella, she promises that she will change everything for his sake and turn him into a real prince. She says that he should not worry, and that all he has to do is step into the glass slippers and come to her. Her fairy tale shatters the next second when she is brought back to reality. Jun-ho casually crushes the glass slippers under his foot without any hesitation. With a dark expression, he reaches out, moving in closer. Still furious, he keeps her pinned in place and demands to know what she has done with his original food truck. He tells her not to stain his uncle's name by attaching it to that flashy new truck. Si-hee is completely overwhelmed and asks why he is acting like this. Secretary Kim snaps and yells at him for treating the young miss so roughly. Jun-ho recalls the news broadcast about the scam that cost him everything in the past. He explains that he knows exactly how people use sweet words as bait to swindle others and take everything from them. He states firmly that he refuses to fall for the same trick again, which leaves the secretary baffled. He turns to Si-hee and says that it does not matter if she is an heiress or anything else. He points at his uncle's name on the truck and declares that he has no intention of abandoning it. With a defiant stare, he thumps his chest and tells them to just try taking his food truck away from him. Si-hee blushes and starts wondering what he truly meant by those words. She realizes that, to him, it does not matter whether she is rich or not. Because of that, she completely misreads his meaning, convincing herself that he was talking about his heart instead of the truck. Everything clicks in her mind, and she suddenly becomes incredibly hopeful. The protagonist looks at both of them with a serious expression. By now, Si-hee is entirely in love with him. After that, Jun-ho returns to work, focusing on making his signature corn dogs. He finishes each one with the expert flair of a seasoned chef, sprinkling salt in a stylish motion. Smiling, he offers the fresh corn dog to the next person in line. Watching from the shadows, Si-hee promises herself that she will help him sell every last item that day. He finds the whole situation suspicious, but he cannot deny that business is booming. Even so, he starts to notice something odd about the customers. One of them loudly praises the food before even taking a bite, and that instantly raises his suspicions. In disguise, Si-hee spots him scanning the area, clearly on alert for anything shady. While the cat naps calmly nearby, Jun-ho chooses to ignore the strange crowd and calls the next customer forward. The heiress steps up and declares that she will buy everything, but he recognizes her immediately. She tries again with a different disguise, yet he repeats that he will not sell to Miss Nam Si-hee. Refusing to give up, she appears once more in an adorable costume, and this time he completely loses his patience. He calls her stubborn and yanks the oversized kitten head off her. Frustrated, she asks why he refuses to sell food to her. She insists that he should at least give her a chance, while he questions the basis of her confidence. He raises her voice and asks what she has to do, saying that she is willing to do anything. Jun-ho seems to mull over her words for a brief moment. Then, without warning, he suddenly pulls her into a hug. She is stunned by his unexpected gesture. Blushing hard, she starts panicking internally, convinced that she is not ready for this kind of moment. She imagines a dramatic, romantic kiss unfolding between them right then and there. She closes her eyes and steels herself, saying that she is ready for Mr. Jun-ho. Jun-ho just stares at her in confusion and asks what Miss Nam Si-hee is doing. It turns out he was only trying to tie an apron around her waist and has no idea why she is reacting that way. He tells her that if she wants to eat, she has to earn it like everyone else. Fired up, the heiress changes outfits and accepts his challenge, thrilled at the chance to work with him. He is irritated by her extreme enthusiasm, so he simply tells them to get started, and she agrees, though a little deflated. On the job, the heiress diligently serves customers while someone quietly snaps pictures of her from the sidelines. In one photo, she beams with joy while trying to drizzle sauce on a corn dog, but the sauce completely misses the target. In another, she nearly causes the fryer to explode, sending Jun-ho into full panic mode. After all the chaos, she finally gets to taste a corn dog that she made herself. The last photo captures the two of them at the end of the day, sharing a very sweet and charming moment together. It is revealed that Secretary Kim is the one taking the pictures while speaking to the chairwoman on the phone. The look in the secretary's eyes shows that she is plotting something against the protagonist. In another scene, back home, his phone will not stop buzzing with notifications. Stepping out of the shower, Jun-ho wonders who is sending so many messages. It is Si-hee, repeatedly asking him out on a date, but he chooses to ignore her and leaves all her messages unread. He decides he will keep ignoring her, yet the phone keeps vibrating non-stop, driving him crazy. Annoyed, Jun-ho finally heads to his computer and opens a new email that has just arrived. Seeing the result in the email, he shoots up from his chair with his laptop in hand. At his food truck, he celebrates loudly because he has won the auction for the amusement park vendor spot. Soon he is there at the park, preparing ice cream with impressive skill. The swirl of ice cream, the chocolate syrup, and the bright red cherry look irresistible, becoming the highlight of the day. The protagonist then says that everything is ready and that he can finally begin. But he finds it strange, because the amusement park is completely empty. To make things worse, opening time has already passed and not a single customer has appeared. He wonders if the reason is the weather, thinking maybe it will rain. Then Si-hee suddenly materializes behind him and licks the ice cream he is holding. With a smile, she says his name and tells him she is glad he finally arrived. He is stunned and asks how she managed to find him. A light goes on in his mind, and he begins to suspect the truth. With narrowed eyes, he asks if the amusement park belongs to the SH group as well. Si-hee shakes her hand in denial and tells him he is wrong. She then reveals that no other customers will be showing up today, which infuriates him. She tosses money into the air and proudly says she rented the entire amusement park just for them. She adds that if she does this for the whole month, only she will be able to buy from him. Hearing this, he realizes he is completely trapped, and she gives him a triumphant smile. Still holding him by the wrist, she cheerfully tells him to focus only on her today. She drags him through the empty park as if guiding him through their own private world. Far away, Secretary Kim watches everything unfold and says she will step in for the chairwoman. But the chairwoman replies that she will handle the orders herself and instructs Secretary Kim not to interfere. Then she asks if the secretary does not trust her. Filled with frustration, Secretary Kim clenches her fist so tightly that she punches the wall and cracks it. With fiery determination, she says she will prove her worth in her own way. On a ride nearby, she thinks that the protagonist is the root of all problems and that removing threats is her duty. She decides she must neutralize the danger before anything gets worse. She concludes that to eliminate the threat, she must seduce him. She recalls spending 5 million won on a professional dating course, feeling confident because she has mastered every relationship theory in existence. Meanwhile, the protagonist, completely unaware, is sweating nervously under her intense stare. While the ride gains speed, she says the first step is maintaining constant eye contact, gripping the safety bar in a bizarre pose as she drills holes into him with her gaze. As the roller coaster dives, she keeps staring at him without blinking. Secretary Kim screams with excitement as the ride speeds up. Si-hee laughs joyfully and shouts his name with pure happiness. On another ride, the secretary grabs him from behind, applying her physical touch technique. During a water ride, all three of them get soaked, and the secretary thinks her plan is flawless. Si-hee shouts that she is having the time of her life. Afterward, dripping wet, the protagonist sees Si-hee holding up a photo she took of the moment. She says it is perfect timing for something she wanted and pulls him by the hand. Soon they appear wearing school uniforms for a classic amusement park photo shoot. Inside the booth, Si-hee gives him a kiss on the cheek, but he stays expressionless. Her kitten headband makes her look even cuter, perfect for the date she dreamed of. On the pirate ship ride, Si-hee lets go of the bars and starts clinging to him, bouncing with each swing. Seeing this, Secretary Kim leaps from her seat and calls the protagonist a loser. But when the huge ship drops down, she loses control. She realizes her mistake in slow motion and reaches out, shouting for the young miss to grab her hand. The protagonist asks how she can call herself a bodyguard when she cannot even stay upright on a basic ride. Secretary Kim, furious, demands to know what he just said. In her rage, she grabs his arm. In one swift movement, she flips him over her shoulder and slams him into the ground. Dazed, he asks if she did not just tell him to hold her hand. The secretary then pulls Si-hee close and questions why he is unaffected by everything. She cannot understand why her seduction techniques are failing so miserably. She insists that her theories are flawless and wonders what went wrong. With Plan A ruined, she decides it is time for Plan B, gripping the ride's steering wheel with all her strength. She starts spinning it at maximum speed. Si-hee squeals with delight, enjoying the ride's extreme spin. But the protagonist becomes dizzy and begs her to stop. Her plan is simple: disorient him and then overwhelm him so she can reset his thoughts. The ride spins so violently that it becomes a literal tornado. Jun-ho and Si-hee scream in panic as they whirl around. Fed up, the protagonist grabs the secretary's wrists and tells her to stop her madness. Secretary Kim freezes because he suddenly holds her hands. He looks at her with a deep, unbroken gaze, and she feels her heart thump wildly. His firm grip and intense eye contact make her own theory backfire spectacularly. She becomes completely red-faced and speechless at his unexpected touch. He says that he is dizzy, and she wonders if she is the one falling for him instead. He tells her to let go, but she refuses, and he warns that he will get sick if she continues. She realizes he nearly reversed her entire plan and thinks he is not an ordinary man. Then she glances sideways and thinks that the young miss absolutely cannot see him like this. Feeling queasy at an amusement park, Secretary Kim holds her up and apologizes for the young miss's condition. It seems that Jun-ho is tagging along with them through the park. Suddenly, Si-hee becomes horribly embarrassed by what just happened. She tries to blame Secretary Kim for the loud stomach growl, but Jun-ho has already heard it clearly. The secretary reluctantly accepts the blame, but Jun-ho knows perfectly well that it was Si-hee. Secretary Kim turns red with anger and shame over the situation. The heiress then announces that she is going to the restroom and asks Jun-ho to wait for her. While he waits, Jun-ho picks up a toy gun from a nearby stall. Secretary Kim challenges him to a shooting game, proposing a bet. He gives her a bored look, clearly not very interested. He takes aim and asks her what she really wants from this. Staying blunt, the secretary cocks her own gun and says that she will be straightforward. She tells him to choose one out of two options she is about to present. She lists the first option as kicking the bucket, then reveals the second. She proposes that he fall in love with her, which leaves him stunned. Secretary Kim stands at the shooting range with the shotgun aimed squarely at his head. She calmly tells him to choose, saying that he must either die or fall for her. He stiffens with the game gun still in his hands and demands in utter confusion what she is talking about, thinking that the weapon pointed at him looks frighteningly real. She replies in a cold voice that she will permit him to like her, but only if he keeps his distance from the miss. He lowers his own gun to his shoulder and grumbles that everyone in that family seems desperate to push him away. He adds that even if she delivered a truck full of Ms. Nam Se-hee, he would have no use for her, asking them to simply cart her off. He begins to say that he would never want a woman who only cares about his truck, but before he can finish, she pulls the trigger. The sudden blast makes him freeze as he watches the projectile dart toward him, wondering in horror if she truly fired a real round. Her fury ignites as she repeats his words and shouts that he says he does not need their miss. The rubber bullet slams into him and drops him to his knees. Grabbing his upper arm, he yells that his shoulder is killing him, but when he checks under his shirt he realizes in bafflement that nothing seems damaged. She pumps the shotgun and explains that it is a rubber round used for riot control, though she adds that making him lose the use of that arm permanently is not out of the question. She leans closer and warns that this is his final chance, then demands loudly that he admit he likes her. Staring up at the barrel, he thinks bleakly that she is completely unhinged. He suddenly bolts, deciding they need to get out now. More shots crack behind him as he runs. Nam Se-hee appears ahead, waving happily and calling out to Mr. Jun-ho. He charges forward, grabs her, and pulls her into his arms, offering a stiff apology and saying that Ms. Nam Se-hee should forgive him for the sudden contact. She blushes, manages a shaky yes, and then gasps when he sweeps her off her feet and carries her away. Secretary Kim shouts that he is taking the miss hostage, as she watches them disappear, groaning in exasperation yet silently urging him to keep going. She watches his retreating figure with the miss in tow and thinks that he should run, Jun-ho. Then she straightens and decides privately that if she cannot have him, she will simply break him. Later, in a haunted school building, Uncle Doc Chun greets the pair, welcoming them and declaring that they have entered the cursed halls, not that they can see him anyway. In the dim red corridor, Nam Se-hee clings to Jun-ho's arm and asks if he has finally agreed to go on a date with her. He answers that for now she should just stay close, thinking that they can hide here and stall for time. Blushing, she whispers her agreement. Above them a camera rotates, and on her tablet Secretary Kim watches the feed, remarking that she cannot believe he walked into that place by choice, which she had personally modified earlier. She describes that the haunted house is the park's most famous attraction and notes that for their miss, with her reflexes and athletic skill, it is nothing more than child's play. Jun-ho mutters that it does not seem that bad, right before the entire set erupts. Se-hee says it is because the house is extremely realistic. He wonders whether they will survive. Nam Se-hee laughs that it just became even more entertaining as 3 arrows shoots towards him. Before it's too late, Se-hee slams into him and knocks him flat. Standing over him, she tells him not to worry and promises she will stay near and protect him. Under the purple lights he stares at her, sweat gathering at his brow, thinking that staying here means certain death. Elsewhere, Secretary Kim stares at her tablet, murmuring wait, and then insisting that something feels wrong as she sees him shielding the miss. Soon after, he hoists Nam Se-hee and sprints, a horde of ghouls stampeding behind. Kim thinks that if this continues, Jun-ho would be the only one helping Se-hee. He snatches a flashlight from the floor. In another corridor, darkness swallows everything until his beam flicks on. The light lands on a long-haired girl crouched ahead. The sight makes him jerk back, stammering in horror and barely forcing out a fragmented what the before the apparition lunges straight into the light. Secretary Kim Ghost Girl Edition hurls herself at him, her leg going for his face. He barely manages to dodge backwards while the flashlight beam slices frantic arcs through the dark. He scrambles upright with the light extended and yells that this is completely insane, while Nam Se-hee stands back completely nonchalantly. He sweeps the beam across the hallway and pants that he has no idea where the ghost went. The corridor reveals only dust and toppled props. Then, as he turns, he spots the shrouded figure lying coming at him from above. While he hesitates, the figure snaps upright, red eyes blazing through the cloth. Nam Se-hee sees a red button. She wonders what it is and clicks it without hesitation. Just as she did that, while Secretary Kim almost had him, a cage fell from above, trapping them both. They crash in a tangle of limbs and fabric, their screams overlapping. Secretary Kim lets out a stifled grunt as she opens her eyes to see their lips touching. Her thoughts halt for a second, wondering if those are truly his lips. Completely embarrassed, Secretary Kim kicks him off of her with force, sending him crashing. With her face bright red, she says that she is going to kill him. Flat on his back, he can only wheeze that he wants to go home. Nam Se-hee crouches near him in a wash of pink light, smiling brightly and telling him they have no time to rest. Soon they are running again across the open plaza as carousel lights whirl around them. Behind them, Secretary Kim charges in pursuit, slamming a control on her wrist device and shouting that he will not escape, while digital prompts say that her speed has increased. On the carousel platform, they are finally cornered by the railing and spinning lights. He looks around in despair, thinking that that woman is relentless to the very end. Nam Se-hee presses close to his arm and exclaims that they are trapped. while he eyes her suspiciously and wonders if she orchestrated all of this. Exhausted, he begs her to stop. She beams and reminds him that she is only doing exactly what he demanded, declaring that she will stay at his side, Mr. Jun-ho, for a full month. Cornered, he asks what he must do for her to end this. She leans in, hair fluttering, and says that he already knows, because she is only asking for what she truly wants. As the carousel spins into golden streaks, she slides her arms around his neck and draws him close until their faces nearly meet and her intent charges the space between their almost touching lips. Pressed close against him on the carousel, Nam Se-hee tilts her face up toward Go Dok-chun and says that he already knows the answer, that he understands exactly what she wants. Her arms loop around his neck as she leans in, her lips parting, her intention sharpening in her mind into a single, unmistakable desire. Their mouths hover a breath apart when the entire carousel suddenly erupts in crackling blue lightning. Elsewhere in the park, Manager Kim stares at the ride as sparks explode across its structure. She exclaims in shock, instinctively voicing disbelief, while her wrist device flashes red and repeatedly signals an error. The surge ripples outward through the amusement park, lights flickering across the miniature castle and the roller coaster. Secretary Kim rushes toward the carousel and shouts anxiously, asking whether the miss is all right. Moments later, the lights stabilize. Beneath the warm glow of the bulbs, Nam Se-hee straightens her uniform, her cheeks flushed, and laughs it off, saying that it startled them and must have been a brief power outage. She glances around and realizes she is standing alone on the platform. Confusion crosses her face as she murmurs that she wonders where he went, calling out for Mr. Dok-chun. Her voice echoes over the now silent carousel. Far away, that cry for Mr. Dok-chun lingers in his memory as he grips the steering wheel of his truck. He slams down on the accelerator, thinking that the penalty for canceling the contract will be painful, but also knowing that he cannot allow that woman to toy with him any longer. The image of the muzzle flash and the bullet flying straight toward his chest burns in his thoughts, and he frames it as a clear threat on his life, proof that she treated him like something money could control. Scenes from the haunted school attraction flash through his mind, Se-hee's delighted expression looming large, until her name brands itself in his thoughts as something dangerous. Jaw clenched, he yells into the empty passenger seat that he will never let her have her way with his truck. As the food truck races down a moonlit avenue between towering buildings, its taillights shrinking into pinpricks behind him, he lifts his eyes to the sky and silently asks his late uncle to watch over him. High above the city, in a glass-walled office, Manager Kim kneels low and apologizes, addressing the woman seated before her as chairwoman. The chairwoman stands before the window, city lights reflected across half her face, and coldly reminds her that she had explicitly warned her not to get involved. Manager Kim pleads for another chance, insisting that this time she will make sure he can never cook again for the rest of his life. Her eyes burn red behind her glasses as she adds that she can do far worse. The refusal comes swiftly. Se-hee's mother tells her not to interfere, addressing her firmly as Manager Kim, then grips her jaw and pulls her face close to reinforce the command. The chairwoman explains that they must make him leave of his own accord. Manager Kim trembles as she listens, sweat gathering at her temples. The chairwoman continues, warning that if Se-hee realizes something went wrong because of interference, she will break down again. The thought summons the image of a younger Se-hee with hollow eyes, and the chairwoman adds that it would be like 20 years ago, when Se-hee caused her father's death at a blood-splattered crosswalk beneath a red traffic light. That grim memory is abruptly contrasted by a bright video frame. A cheerful Se-hee, wearing a cap marked SH, bites into a sandwich and smiles at the camera while energetically promoting Go Dok-chun's food truck. She remains unaware that the past she carries is now shaping a dangerous game around the man who owns it. Jun-ho's food truck sits among the university festival booths. Inside, he watches a pepperoni pizza bake as the crust blisters and the cheese bubbles. He tastes it and murmurs that it turned out well. Petals drift through the air as he reflects that the amusement park incident was unfortunate, but at least he managed to secure a spot at the university festival. He scans the crowd and remarks that university students stir up old memories, briefly thinking about when he was one of them. He forces himself to stop, reminding himself that now is not the time to dwell on the past. A customer asks for a slice of pepperoni pizza. Jun-ho responds that it will be one slice as he turns to serve, then pauses mid-motion with a small sound of surprise. A familiar young woman steps forward and calls his name, asking if he is Jun-ho Oppa. He recognizes her as Park Yu-ri and remarks that she used to be a middle school student, though he corrects himself, acknowledging that was years ago. He adds that it feels strange to think she is already a university student, because to him she still looks the same. Yuri blushes as she watches him, half hiding behind the book pressed to her chest, thinking that Oppa is still the same. Junho gestures toward the boy beside her and asks whether that is her boyfriend. Yuri panics and quickly denies it, explaining that he is only a friend, her classmate from the fashion design department, Shin Soo-yeon. Junho offers her a slice and encourages her to try the pizza he made. Yuri hesitates and says that she is on a diet, so she will only take one bite. The moment she bites down, she reacts immediately, exclaiming that it is delicious. Her thoughts dissolve into the savory umami of oil bursting from the salty pepperoni, the fragrant spices melting together, and the layers of cheese binding all the flavors into something overwhelming. Yuri clutches the slice as if the taste itself is pulling at her with invisible strings. She staggers slightly, thinking in alarm that the pizza keeps drawing her in. She groans that she is supposed to be on a diet, yet her body leans forward against her will. The sensation deepens until her thoughts fix entirely on the bread. In her imagination, the crust becomes a golden tide, crisp on the outside and soft and heavy within, the savory flavor growing stronger with every bite. Overwhelmed, she blurts that it is unfair for bread to taste this good. She spins back toward the counter, cheeks flushed, and excitedly asks Junho Oppa since when he has been cooking, saying it is unbelievably delicious. Junho smiles behind the service window and comments that it is nice to see her eating so happily. His tone shifts as he points out that she really eats well, implying that she already finished the entire slice. Yuri's resolve collapses instantly, and the idea of dieting vanishes as if blown away. Junho glances at her jacket and asks if she said she is in the fashion design department. He recalls that even back then, her drawings used to win awards. Yuri lights up and says that he remembered. He recalls how she used to pester him to buy her meals whenever she won, even though he was a poor university student at the time. In the memory, he laughs awkwardly while she flashes a peace sign beside him. She admits that she was a brat back then. Junho replies that now he is simply proud that she is attending the best university in Korea. Leaning on his elbow, he tells her sincerely that she worked very hard. A voice from nearby calls for Yuri and Soo-yeon to hurry. Yuri bows and thanks Junho, saying that she will enjoy the meal as she and Soo-yeon lift the packed boxes. Junho lightly warns that if she eats it all by herself, she will gain weight. Yuri whirls back, face red, calling out to him as petals drift around her. As she walks beneath the blossoms, she turns and says that she will see him again, Junho Oppa. Junho watches her go and thinks with quiet relief that it is good to see she is doing well. Elsewhere, the warmth shatters as a phone vibrates in the dark. The glowing message reflects in her glasses, repeating that they must kill, must kill. The ringing stretches on as purple scales seem to close in around Yuri. She pleads in a trembling voice, begging again and again to be let go. Someone suddenly calls out Park Yuri's name, and her pupils snap back into focus as if she has been caught mid-thought. Startled, she blurts that she heard them and that she is sorry, her voice too loud for a classroom that had been half asleep. On the page in front of her, her pen keeps moving anyway, scratching out lines that look like Junho. Her cheeks heat up as she quietly giggles to herself that he is handsome, the thought ballooning in her head until it feels like it might burst. Park Yuri's name gets shouted again, louder by the professor. Outside, she spots him and thinks in a rush that it is Oppa. The realization makes her flustered enough that she stumbles, bumping into someone and immediately sputtering that she is really sorry. A friend leans in and asks why she is acting weird today, asking if something is wrong. Another complains that Yuri has been like this ever since she met that pizza truck uncle, and the whispering around her turns into excited poking. Yuri snaps back, insisting that he is not an uncle, her face burning. Someone needles her by asking whether that kind of uncle is her type, and another friend practically vibrates, demanding that she spill everything because they are buzzing with dopamine, ordering her to explain it all from the beginning. Yuri's mind slips into memory. She recalls that the first flutter she ever felt was back in middle school, and she admits to herself that it was her first love. She remembers greeting him brightly, calling him Oppa as she waved. She remembers candy appearing in his hand every time they met, and she remembers him teasing that she never refused and that she was going to get fat. She remembers punching him in protest and yelling that Oppa always gave them to her anyway, while he only laughed. Those tiny moments pile up until her heart feels too full to hold them. In winter, Snow drifting through the air. He had called her name and asked what she was doing outside in the cold. She had thrust her hands forward and said she came to give him a Christmas present. He had looked at it, then told her she should give things like that to her boyfriend. She had gone quiet, then called him Oppa again, voice shaking as she said that she was a high school student now. She had promised that in just 3 more years, she would be a university student. In the falling snow, Yuri hugs her scarf closer and asks, with cheeks red and eyes shining, whether she can confess to him when she goes to university. Jun-ho freezes for a beat, then bursts into loud laughter, his shoulders shaking as the sound echoes out into the cold night. Yuri flails in embarrassment and complains that it is too much, and he steps in quickly, rubbing the back of his neck as he apologizes over and over, saying that it is still a good thing to hear. Even as he speaks, he thinks that it is natural for someone to like the boy next door, and he tries to keep his tone gentle as he tells her that, for now, she should focus on studying and be careful not to catch a cold. He turns to leave, his footsteps crunching away through the snow. Yuri remains behind, overwhelmed, and she ends up collapsing into the powder with a soft thud, face burning as she clutches her small present to her chest. Through the drifting flakes, she forces the words out anyway and murmurs that she wishes him a Merry Christmas, watching his back grow smaller. Later, a quiet night presses in around apartment windows, and Yuri steels herself and thinks that she has to be brave. Even though he suddenly disappeared one day, leaving only silence and scattered traces behind, her heart refuses to let go. In her mind, his name rings clearly, Jun-ho, and she admits that he was her first love. Time passes into the warm orange of another evening. The food truck glows under the setting sun, and he greets a customer with an easy welcome. Yuri appears in front of him again, older now, holding up 2 cold cans, and she asks if he has a moment. They sit side by side, and she comments that it is still chilly at night, and he agrees without looking away from the skyline. Her hand slides toward a neatly wrapped box, and she hesitates before asking, carefully, whether Oppa has a girlfriend. He repeats the word as if testing it, then thinks that, with Shish or whatever constantly eyeing his food truck, he cannot be bothered with things like girlfriends. Yuri leans forward urgently and asks if he does not, and when he answers, she explodes with a bright, breathless yes. She straightens, clutching the gift tighter, and declares that she is a university student now. He stares, confused, and she rushes on, saying that what she means is. Yuri clutches the wrapped box with both hands, cheeks blushing as she forces the words out and says that she still feels the same, that she still loves Oppa. But before she could finish her sentence, a violent roar tears through the sky. A helicopter descends, blades chopping the air, leaves and dust exploding outward. Yuri staggers as the wind slams into her, eyes wide in shock. In the chaos, Si-hee leans out from the open side of the helicopter, hair streaming, eyes locked on Dak-chun. Yuri's vision blurs as she recognizes her and thinks the name Nam Se-hee. Jun-ho clenches his jaw, sweat beading, as the woman laughs breathlessly and calls him Jun-ho Oppa as well, demanding to know why, over and over, her voice sharp and frantic. The helicopter pulls back, and Se-hee steps in close, looping an arm around Jun-ho with practiced ease. She laughs brightly and says that meeting here like this must be fate. He asks her how she found this place, to which she replies that this is in fact the graduate school she attends. Yuri, with a pale and shocked face, asks about their relationship. Jun-ho stiffens as Si-hee raises 2 fingers playfully and declares that they are engaged to be married, adding a small heart as if it is obvious. Yuri freezes. Her thoughts fracture as the realization hits that he does not have a girlfriend but has a fiancé. She wonders what is going on with her calling Jun-ho Mr. Dak-chun and thinks in disbelief whether he changed his name. Jun-ho pinches the bridge of his nose and exhales, saying that it is a long story and that it is all nonsense. Yuri forces a shaky laugh and asks if it is a joke, if Oppa and her are joking. Se-hee's expression hardens as she leans in and states calmly that it is not a joke, asking if there is any reason it would not work out. She studies Yuri's face and then asks directly whether she perhaps likes Mr. Dak-chun. Yuri flinches, stunned, letting out a small sound of confusion. Dak-chun turns sharply and says that Se-hee is spouting all sorts of nonsense again today. He explains that when he was a university student, Yuri was still a middle schooler, that they were neighbors who often met and got close. In the dark of Yuri's mind, the words echo. She thinks that she knows, begging him inwardly not to finish his words. As a plea not to say those things. Doc Chun finishes firmly, stating that Yu Ri is like a little sister to him, unaware of the inner turmoil he is causing Yu Ri. Yu Ri keeps turning over the thought in her head. She wonders what kind of story only the two of them share, what kind of distance exists between them, and why, of all people, that person has to be Nam Si-hee. The realization makes her chest tighten with anger. With a voice already cracking, she mutters that she will head out first because of an assignment. She adds that she will see him later and calls him Oppa, then bolts away without looking back, leaving Jun-ho standing there with Si-hee. The scene fades and shifts to the following day. Near Jun-ho's food truck on the university campus, his cat lounges close by. Si-hee approaches with an exaggerated puppy-like expression and says that she is hungry. Jun-ho lifts up a slice of pizza and asks her if she likes pizza. She replies that she once ate pizza at a 3-star Italian gourmet restaurant, but she did not like it at all. Crossing his arms, Jun-ho tells her that means she has never actually had good pizza. Si-hee lights up at that and excitedly tells him to make her a delicious one, then. Jun-ho, however, has something else in mind. He hands her an apron, and she asks if she really has to work for it. He responds by saying there is no reason he would just give it to her and asks what is even special about her. She immediately starts listing her features, saying that her eyes are pretty, her nose is pretty, and continues on until Jun-ho is clearly fed up with her antics. He tells her to focus. He explains that pizza starts with the dough, though they will be using dough that has already been fermented. While he talks, Si-hee casually munches on one of the ingredients, prompting Jun-ho to scold her and tell her not to eat it. He begins the first step by sprinkling flour over the dough and spinning it to spread it evenly. Si-hee, meanwhile, messes around and pokes a hole straight through her own dough. Jun-ho reaches out, takes her hands, and guides her movements, explaining that stretching dough by hand is harder than it looks. The closeness makes Si-hee blush, and she quickly asks what the next step is. Jun-ho leans closer to her face and demonstrates by spinning the dough up into the air. He explains that using centrifugal force helps the dough spread evenly. A group of women gather around the food truck, filming Jun-ho's impressive pizza skills. He then tells Si-hee to try it herself, but when she does, the dough and ingredients go flying everywhere. Afterward, they add the toppings and slide the pizza into the oven for 10 minutes. Soon, the bacon potato pizza with extra mayonnaise is complete. Si-hee takes a bite and clearly enjoys it, describing how the fluffy, chewy dough fills her mouth. She says that the bacon and wedge potatoes burst with flavor, cutting through with the tangy acidity and spicy kick of the special tomato sauce. At the end, she adds that the cheese and mayonnaise smash everything together, making it feel like she is committing a sin against her body. Even so, she admits that the dopamine rush will not stop and that it tastes insanely good. She then tells Jun-ho to look at her, and once again she starts fooling around, this time with strings of cheese. Jun-ho lets out a tired sigh. Just then, someone asks for a slice of the potato pizza. He quickly packs a piece and says that the timing is perfect since it was just baked. When he mentions that it will cost 3,501 won, the woman asks if he is really going to charge her. Jun-ho looks confused until the woman smiles and calls him by name. He finally realizes that the woman standing there is Park Yu-ri. Si-hee clings to Jun-ho's arm and remarks that the woman is the same one she saw the day before. Yu-ri glares up at Si-hee, thinking that she cannot just sit back and let her steal her oppa away. Jun-ho apologizes, saying that he did not recognize Yu-ri because she has changed so much. Yu-ri twirls her hair and shyly asks if it is too short or looks strange. Jun-ho tells her that she looks pretty, and Yu-ri gets flustered, thinking it is unfair for him to say it so casually. At the same time, Si-hee asks Jun-ho if she looks pretty today, only for him to bluntly reply that she does not. Yu-ri becomes irritated, feeling that Si-hee is ruining the moment. She pulls Jun-ho's arm closer to her chest and says that she will help him. Si-hee immediately does the same, claiming she is much better at this than Yu-ri. Before things can escalate further, Secretary Kim appears behind Si-hee and reminds her that she has a meeting with her academic advisor. Si-hee cries out for Jun-ho as she is dragged away, while Yu-ri happily waves goodbye, pleased that she now has Jun-ho all to herself. Jun-ho tells Yu-ri that he will pay her wages in pizza. She tells him to stop joking around, but he pokes her nose and says he is serious, explaining that it is the owner's decision. Flour from his glove smears across her nose, and she complains that she spent a lot of money on her makeup today. Hearing that, Jun-ho becomes worried and reaches out to brush the flour away. Yu-ri suddenly smirks and shoves his face into a tray filled with flour, leaving his face completely white. She jokes that his makeup turned out great and teasingly calls him a powder monster as she holds up a cloth to clean him off. While wiping his face, she casually asks about his ideal type. Jun-ho admits that he has never really thought about it. After a moment, he has a realization and convinces himself that he likes everything opposite of he. He answers that he probably likes short hair and bright colors, that he is not a fan of very pale skin, and most of all, someone who lives earnestly on their own without relying on money or connections. Inside his head, he adds that as long as it is not nam-si-he, it is fine. Jun-ho then asks Yu-ri why she suddenly brought up his ideal type, but she throws the cloth at his face and tells him to wait a second. It dawns on her that her hair is short and brightly colored, that her skin is not pale, and that she works hard on her own. She realizes that she perfectly matches his ideal type. With a loving smile, she is about to say that his type is her, when a mysterious person suddenly speaks up, saying that she finally found her. Yu-ri freezes as the person places a hand on her shoulder and calls her name. The feeling mirrors the fear Yu-ri had earlier when she read the message on her phone. All of a sudden, someone places a hand on Yu-ri's shoulder and says that they finally found her. The smile on her face disappears instantly, replaced by a look of despair. Jun-ho pulls the towel off his face and asks if Yu-ri was saying something, but his words trail off when he notices a man standing right beside her. Jun-ho asks who the man is. The long-haired man casually replies that he is Yu-ri's boyfriend, wrapping an arm around her as he comments that she seems to have gotten prettier while he was gone. Yu-ri calls him T-wen and tells him to stop, saying that they already broke up. T-wen grabs her face and asks why she thinks she gets to decide that on her own, adding that he was only fooling around anyway. Yu-ri begs him to stop, her voice trembling as she looks like she might burst into tears at any second. Suddenly, T-wen lets out a scream, and Yu-ri's eyes fly open in shock. Jun-ho is gripping T-wen by the ears, yanking them hard as T-wen yells at him to let go. Jun-ho calmly says that he is only pulling his ears so he can hear better, since he clearly seems to have trouble listening. He then shoves T-wen aside and tells him to get lost, saying that he has crossed the line. T-wen snaps back, asking why Jun-ho is sticking his nose into someone else's business and running his mouth. Jun-ho glances at Yu-ri, who is crying, then pulls her closer and says that he is her boyfriend. Yu-ri stares at him in shock, her expression full of confusion. T-wen scoffs and asks how Yu-ri dared to meet another man. Jun-ho steps in front of her again and tells T-wen to leave, warning him that he will not stop at a warning next time. People around them start filming the scene. Some whisper that T-wen is the fourth-year representative from the media department. Realizing the attention, T-wen turns away and says that Yu-ri will regret this, telling her to just wait and see. Jun-ho looks like he is about to chase after him and throw punches, but Yu-ri suddenly hugs him tightly from behind and apologizes over and over. Jun-ho gently pries her hands away and leans closer, wiping the tears from her face as he tells her that she has nothing to apologize for and that she did nothing wrong. Yu-ri feels embarrassed, wondering why that man had to appear at this exact moment. She hugs Jun-ho again and admits that she cannot help but like him even more now. Just then, someone calls out to her. Yu-ri says that it sounds like one of her friends and asks what is going on. At the same time, she realizes how close she is to Jun-ho and suddenly knees him in the face without thinking. Blood starts to trickle as Jun-ho protests that she was the one who hugged him first. Yu-ri hurriedly apologizes, saying she was startled. Jun-ho tells her to use only one tissue because they are expensive. Yu-ri peeks out from the food truck and asks her friends to wait for a moment. They shout back that it is urgent and related to their department. Yu-ri rushes off toward the department, with no idea why Jun-ho ends up following her. One of the members explains that T-wen just cut their funding for snack ingredients and told them that Yu-ri has to apologize to him in person if they want the money back. The others complain angrily, saying this ruins everything, that they cannot sell anything today or they will have to pay out of pocket, and asking why they have to suffer over something that is Yu-ri's fault. Yu-ri apologizes again and says she will somehow fix it by talking to him. Jun-ho asks whether the ingredients they already have are not enough, somehow slipping himself into their stall as he speaks. Yu-ri asks what he is talking about, and the others explain that those are leftovers from the previous day, the food they failed to sell. Jun-ho ties a towel around his head and asks why they are just standing there, telling them to get ready to sell. Before long, a huge crowd forms in front of the stall, and the food starts selling out at a rapid pace. Later that night, Yu-ri tells Jun-ho that he was incredible and asks what kind of magic he used. He explains that festival stalls always sell the same things, like fish cakes, sundae, sausages, rolled omelets, and chicken skewers. But he adds that changing the menu even slightly can turn it into something new. He explains that by taking a regular kimchi pancake and adding bacon and cheese before grilling it, it becomes a sweet and salty combination. Bacon cheese kimchi pancake, along with condensed milk cheese corn pancake. One of Yu-ri's friends calls out to ask if the food for table 39 is ready. Yu-ri replies that she is bringing it now. As she carries the dishes away, she looks back and smiles, thanking Jun-ho again. Jun-ho wonders if he was not supposed to be selling pizza at his own stall. Still, after seeing Yu-ri's smile and the satisfied customers leaving, he admits to himself that it was not so bad. A few lingering stares remain fixed on Yu-ri's stall. Jun-ho says that he is going to the restroom. Only a few seconds after he leaves, Ti-wen slips into the kitchen. Keeping his face hidden, he asks how Yu-ri can smile so brightly. He looks over the ingredients and says that Yu-ri brought this on herself, then quietly sprays something over the food. Taiwan jolts as he brushes past someone in the crowd. He dips his head, but irritation flashes beneath the hood as he turns away. Jun-ho catches his figure, his gaze snaps forward and his thoughts freeze. There is no way. Jun-ho spins around at once. Recognition sharpens his eyes as he screams that the man needs to stop. Taiwan keeps moving with the crowd, disappearing without a trace. Back at the stall, Park Yu-ri looks up from her work and asks Jun-ho what is wrong. His jaw tightens as he tells her that jerk tampered with the batter. Yu-ri stiffens and carefully asks if he means what she thinks he means. Jun-ho confirms it. He lifts a jar and explains that chili powder was dumped into the kimchi pancake mix. Yu-ri stares at the red speckled batter and exhales that it was chili powder after all. Anger simmers as Jun-ho thinks about how petty the man must be, wondering if that was really the best revenge he could manage. She points out that it is still a serious problem because those were their last ingredients. She asks how they are supposed to sell something that already looks painfully spicy. Jun-ho's arm tightens, saying that Taiwan has crossed a line by tampering with food and draws a kitchen knife. Yu-ri quickly tells him to calm down. He lowers his gaze beneath his headband, silently vowing not to let this slide. Outside, the long-haired Taiwan tilts back a can, drinking deeply as cold liquid spills down his chin. He mutters that it feels refreshing and looks toward the glowing food stalls, wondering why Jun-ho has not shut down yet. Dread creeps in as he hopes Jun-ho is not actually selling that food. The answer comes fast and loud. Faces twist in pain as people cough, thrash, and cry out. Someone begs for help, another demands to know what kind of food this is, someone sobs for their mother, another shouts into a phone asking if this is an emergency, and someone screams that they cannot see. Taiwan recoils, stunned, thinking that Jun-ho really sold it and calling him insane. Then his shock turns into a grin. He decides this is even better and tells himself to enjoy watching Jun-ho get destroyed. Inside the stall, Yu-ri covers her mouth, eyes shaking as she calls Jun-ho's name and asks what they should do while the crowd spirals. A brief hush falls like a countdown, 3, 2, 1, before it shatters as a glass slams down and someone loudly demands attention. Suddenly, bottles are raised and voices shout for more beer. The food truck area erupts, noise and laughter swelling, while Jun-ho's stall remains packed. Taiwan stares through the crowd, disbelief twisting into fury. He mutters why under his breath, raging internally as Jun-ho's business somehow thrives. Around him, voices overlap as people announce it as a new menu item, complain about seating, and tell each other to squeeze together. Inside the stall, Jun-ho leans close behind Yu-ri and quietly asks how it looks. She startles. He folds his arms and smiles calmly, reminding her that he told her not to worry. Yu-ri laughs awkwardly and asks how he managed it this time, quickly adding that he does not actually have magic. Jun-ho asks if she is curious. He thinks that if it was going to be spicy anyway, they might as well commit fully. Bottles pop open, fizz filling the air as excitement builds. Over the sizzling griddle, Jun-ho works smoothly, explaining that they should make it a delicious kind of spicy, something that makes people crave drinks. He pauses, then hints that there is one more secret. Yu-ri lifts a piece with chopsticks and takes a bite. Heat explodes instantly. Her face turns red as she jerks back, screaming that it is fire and begging for help. Special mayo sauce. Thoughts tumble through the burn. The spice hurts like real fire, but once dipped into the thick sauce, the heat settles perfectly. Confusion follows as craving takes over, and her thought screams that stopping is impossible. The special mayo sauce contains 6 parts mayo, 2 parts sugar, 1 part lemon juice, 3 parts soda, and a pinch of salt. At nearby tables, customers fight over the dish like wild animals. One begs for a bite while another snarls possessively. The name spreads with the frenzy. Junho's kimchi pancake with chungyang chili and special mayo sauce. Yu-ri watches, breath caught. She thinks that when she is with Junho, the world feels less frightening, like she can do anything. Her heart pounds as she braces herself. He thought slips through anyway. She admits inwardly that she likes him. Junho grows serious and asks what happened with the man earlier. Yu-ri explains that he was not always like that. She remembers him smiling warmly, someone who reached out when she could not fit in. Then his jealousy worsened as she began connecting with others. Eventually she ended it. Shame may have hurt him more than the breakup, because that is when the bullying began. Back in the present, Yu-ri hardens her resolve. She says she will not endure it anymore. She thinks about wanting to show her true self, not just her appearance. She rubs her watering eyes with her gloved hand, breathing about how spicy the chilies are. Junho snaps into motion, grabbing her wrist and warning her not to touch her eyes. She looks up at him, caught between pain and relief, and murmurs his name. Yu-ri flails her hands and shrieks that his hands are contaminated too. Junho realizes it belatedly and apologizes. Nearby, people whisper excitedly, wondering what is going on between them and if they are dating. Someone asks about the pizza guy and is immediately corrected. At a cluttered table, Taiwan slumps forward, drunkenly slurring that they are dating. He vows bitterly to see how Yu-ri lives without him. The crowd erupts in shock. Back at the stall, people squeal, teasing Yu-ri about her taste and admitting Junho is handsome. Questions fly about his age and marital status. Yu-ri blushes fiercely, covering her face and thinking about what to do. She apologizes inwardly. Junho admits he started the lie himself and mutters that this has gone too far. He pours drinks calmly, raises his voice, and tells everyone to relax because he sees they have questions. He announces an after-party and promises answers if they win a drinking game, calling them Little Sprouts. The chant explodes instantly as people shout for everyone to drink. The game escalates with rhythmic animal chants. Junho keeps pace effortlessly, stunning everyone as the rounds pile up. Thoughts burst around him, realizing he survives 16 rounds and truly is a social butterfly. Frustration flares, and someone suggests the king's game, determined to catch him. Sticks are drawn, and the command is given that numbers 1 and 3 must kiss. Protests are drowned out by cheers. Junho tries to speak while holding stick number 1 but is cut off as people demand to know who number 3 is. Denials fly. Someone admits they were briefly nervous. Yu-ri stares at the stick near her face, heart racing. She tells herself it is just a game. Yu-ri freezes as her gaze locks onto her stick marked with a bold 2. Confusion floods her as another kiss sound lands beside her, drawing her attention. Her face fills with swirling thoughts as she quickly turns her head to see who dares steal a kiss with Junho.
It was Namsi he who suddenly leaned in and stole a kiss from Junho. Park Yuri could only stare at the scene frozen in shock, unable to process what she had just witnessed. Junho quickly pulled away, wiping his mouth as he demanded to know why he was there. She lightly tapped his face with the wooden stick she was holding and scolded him, saying that he was rude. She explained that she was only following the king's order. It soon became clear that Namsi, he was the one who held number 3, the winning number. The surrounding customers erupted into confusion. They whispered among themselves, asking who she was, and whether someone like her had really attended their school. Their curiosity quickly turned into suspicion as they began to sense something unusual between Junho and the mysterious woman. Some of them glanced toward Park Yuri, quietly wondering how she must be feeling, even if it was all supposedly part of a game. Junho let out a tired sigh and told he that he did not want to be involved with her, and that she should stop before things went any further. He tilted her cap playfully and remarked that if she revealed her identity right there, news articles would be published instantly. Junho took a large gulp of his drink and asked if she was an elementary school student, making such a big deal out of a single kiss. See, he leaned close to his ear and quietly revealed that it had been the first kiss of Nam-si, he, a second-generation chaebol. The shock made Jun-ho spit out his drink. He hurriedly wiped his mouth and asked if she was serious. In response, see, he pressed his face into her soft chest and teased him, saying that he looked adorable when he was flustered. Jun-ho muttered that they would get caught if things continued like this. See, he grabbed his arm and insisted that they should run away. Watching this unfold, Yuri poured herself another glass of alcohol, her expression dark. She thought to herself that Nams, he was beautiful and wealthy, someone even women would admire, someone who lacked nothing. Still, she told herself she could not give up. She admitted inwardly that she had grown too fond of Jun-ho to simply let things slide. With that resolve, Yuri stepped forward and told Nam-si he'd await. See, he turned around with a cold gaze that reminded Yuri of her mother's intimidating presence. Walking toward her, he warned that she was good at fighting. She listed her achievements calmly, saying that she had represented her school in fencing, held a level 3 certification in dressage, and was a licensed yoga instructor, among other things. She raised her fists into a boxing stance while the ghostly uncle cheered her on, claiming he would watch over her. Time passed, and the scene shifted. They now stood inside a dark classroom filled with mannequins. He questioned why they were in such a suspicious place, remarking that a school at night felt like the perfect setting for a ghost to appear. Crossing her arms, she demanded to know what Yuri wanted with her. Yuri suddenly spun around with a confrontational glare, shining her phone's flashlight directly into he's face. He shielded her eyes, accusing Yuri of being cowardly. Peeking through her fingers, she realized it was an ambush. On Yuri's phone screen were countless provocative photos. He shouted that Yuri was attacking her with Mr. Deok Chun's legendary photo collection number 2 to 5. She snatched the phone, staring at the images with trembling hands, declaring that her heart could not take it. With a nosebleed forming, she offered to buy the collection for 1 billion won. Yuri was stunned by the amount and said she had no intention of selling. He casually raised the stakes, stating she would pay 1 billion won per photo. Yuri hesitated as she realized there were over 100 pictures of Jun-ho. She suddenly slapped her own cheek, forcing herself back to her senses. Turning serious, she told he that she would hand over all the photos, but only if he agreed to do her a favor. He's curiosity was clearly piqued. Yuri pulled aside a curtain and explained that she wanted he to wear her work. Displayed on a mannequin was a refined, elegant dress. Outside, announcements echoed through the campus, informing everyone that the pride of Manhwa University, the fashion design department, would soon begin its runway show. Students were instructed to gather near the stage, and Jun-ho watched with growing interest. The focus returned to Yuri, whose expression turned heavy. She explained that she wanted her father to see her work being applauded. She added that if he wore the dress, it would shine even brighter. He stepped closer and firmly refused. With a trembling voice, Yuri pointed out that Nam-si, he already had everything. She confessed that this dress was everything she had. Before she could finish, he winked and explained that was exactly why she refused to wear it. She said that if someone who already had everything took this moment too, it would be unfair. She added that she wanted to win Mr. Deok Chun through her own effort as well. Adjusting her hair, he pulled Yuri into a hug and told her to wear it herself. She positioned Yuri in front of a mirror and encouraged her to show the world how brilliant she truly was. The scene shifted to the runway show. The announcer called Park Yuri's name, signaling her to present her work. Yuri's vision blurred as nerves overwhelmed her, and she questioned whether she could truly step forward. From the shadows, Hwan appeared and asked what she thought she was doing. Startled, she addressed him as her senior. He pinned her against the wall and sneered, telling her not to act arrogant. He mocked her ambitions, claiming she would soon understand how miserable he had been because of her. Yuri turned her face away, heart heavy, as he walked off wearing a satisfied grin, confident that he had crushed her confidence. Laughing to himself, he muttered that he would enjoy watching her get trampled by ridicule. Moments later, the announcer called Yuri's name again. She stepped forward hesitantly, thinking that she might ruin everything because of him. Faced with countless staring eyes, fear took over. She covered her face as tears threatened to fall. Then she heard someone whistling and calling her name. Looking up in surprise, she saw Jun-ho and he cheering her on. The support moved her deeply, and before she realized it, her feet were carrying her forward, toward the path where her appa stood. Her fear faded away. She noticed Jun-ho giving her a thumbs up while wearing the hood she had designed. Joy flooded her heart as she realized it was the gift she had never been able to give him before. She wondered if he had brought it just for this moment. His constant kindness, always drawing the line and calling her a younger sister, suddenly felt unfair. She thought that he had crossed the line first. All the hesitation, the waiting, the missed timing rushed through her mind. She kicked off her high heels and ran toward Jun-ho, thinking of all the words she had swallowed and all the time she had spent only watching him. She decided it was time to end it. The audience awarded her fashion design a perfect score as she leapt off the stage and ran toward him, determined to finally speak the words that had been tangled in her chest for so long. With a tender smile, she rushed forward to hug him, confessing that she liked him. Instead, her face collided with something unexpectedly soft and squishy. It was Nam's. He, startled. Say, he asked if Yuri was saying that she liked her. Yuri blinked in confusion, lifting her head and looking around frantically, wondering where her appa had gone. Say he turns back and states that Jun-ho is right there, but she quickly realizes he and his truck have completely disappeared. Both she and Yuri cry out in frustration, complaining that he has run away again without a trace. The story moves to the following day. Jun-ho drives his truck along the road, thinking to himself that Go-dae, Ok-chun's food truck, is already well known in Seoul thanks to Uncle Dae, Ok-chun's lifelong dedication. He reflects that his own role is to spread that reputation across the entire country, and that his first target region is Gangwon-do. Some time later, his truck is surrounded by a group of elderly onlookers. They murmur among themselves that a young man is preparing something using makgeolli, explaining to each other that makgeolli is rice wine. Jun-ho vigorously shakes the bottle, and the elders warn that it will burst if he keeps doing that. He ignores the warnings and opens the lid anyway, causing the contents to spray everywhere. The elders react with exasperation, reminding him that they predicted exactly that outcome. Jun-ho calmly reassures them and pours the fizzy makgeolli straight into the ice shaver. The machine throws up a flurry of chilled flakes that splash back onto him, and he remarks that it is perfect for hot weather. He then presents a cup of makgeolli shaved ice. The elders study it with curiosity. Jun-ho explains that he mixes makgeolli and milk in a 2-to-1 ratio to create snow like ice, adds sweet red beans on top, and finishes it with acacia honey and powdered sugar for aroma and sweetness. He announces with pride that the makgeolli red bean shaved ice is complete. One elder comments that the makgeolli flavor is rich and enjoyable. Another remarks in surprise that it is possible to enjoy makgeolli, flavored shaved ice, as a snack while also drinking makgeolli. A third gives a thumbs up and observes that as the dessert melts, it naturally turns into red bean makgeolli. Jun-ho pats the side of his truck proudly and asks them to spread the word about Go-dae Ok-chun's food truck. A child approaches and calls him uncle, asking for a red bean shaved ice as well. Jun-ho gently pats the child's head and explains that children are not allowed to have this one. Just then, he hears a familiar voice promoting a special flying experience with SH Airlines. He immediately recognizes Nam-he's voice. He assumes she must be busy dominating the city and thinks there is no chance she would guess he traveled all the way to Gangwon-do. In his mind, he challenges her to try to find him. At that moment, Sahi is shown high above the ground, looking down from the sky. She leaps from a plane and dives toward her destination. With a wild, determined expression, she prepares her parachute and loudly calls out Ok-chun's name. Jun-ho hears the shout and looks around in disbelief. He reasons that he must be imagining things after being harassed so often, and tells himself that she cannot possibly fall from the sky. Immediately afterward, she drops onto him and wraps him in a hug, declaring that she has arrived. Jun-ho is left stunned as she tries to kiss him. In one swift move, he counters by wrapping her tightly in the parachute fabric like a roll of jimbap. He demands to know how she tracked him down. She laughs and says that it is a secret, then shifts her attention to his menu and asks what he is selling now. He begins to explain that it is shaved ice and insists that he will not serve her any. Before he can finish describing the main ingredient, she samples it herself and exclaims that it tastes sweet and deliciously cold. Moments later, her vision wavers, and she asks why Mr. Deok-chun appears to look like a squid. She admits that she is not supposed to consume makgeolli and starts to feel dizzy. Jun-ho asks if she is okay and insists that he does not resemble a squid. He clings to him with a flushed face, and he mutters that he is in serious trouble. She collapses onto the ground, and he comments dryly that even her methods of sabotaging his business are impressively creative. He accuses her of doing it on purpose. He raises her hand and tells him to look closely. He is startled to see that she is bleeding. He quickly takes her to a nearby clinic. The doctor instructs her to keep the wound dry and be careful while washing. After leaving the clinic, an awkward silence hangs between them. He apologizes in a worried tone for disrupting his business. Jun-ho brushes it off and says it is fine, adding sarcastically that such dedicated sabotage almost deserves praise. In his thoughts, he suspects it might be an injury scam and jokes internally that she might be plotting to sue him and take his truck. He concludes that the injury is too minor to support such a claim, but decides he should keep her close and watch her hands carefully in case she attempts something bigger. They stop in front of room 209. He awkwardly explains that she cannot cover hospital or lodging costs because she discarded her wallet and phone to avoid being tracked. She asks if this is her assigned room. Jun-ho stops her at the handle and tells her that it is not just hers, explaining that they will be sharing the room later. Jun-ho is in the shower whilst he sits on the bed, fidgeting. She thinks that sharing a room with Mr. Deok-chun, who kept pushing her away until now, must mean he has finally developed feelings for her. She wonders what changed and recalls the kiss they shared at the festival. She drops back onto the bed, embarrassed by her own thoughts and unsure why she feels so shy now. Jun-ho calls out to her from the bathroom, but she is too deep in her thoughts, telling herself that her feelings must have finally reached him, and that it all feels unreal. He continues calling her name when she does not respond. When she finally turns, she is startled to find him leaning over her, telling her that she should go wash up next. In the bathroom, she brushes her teeth and tries to calm herself, reminding herself that they are only sharing a room. Even so, her imagination runs ahead and suggests they might end up doing something intimate. She covers her face in embarrassment and admits to herself that she is too nervous and unsure how to act. She decides she will behave normally and joke around to ease the tension, while Jun, who dries himself, she calls out and says that her hands hurt, asking if he would help wash her. In her mind, she expects him to get flustered and scold her, assuming he would never take such teasing seriously. Instead, he calmly agrees to help. She is caught completely off guard, realizing she only meant to joke and that his straightforward acceptance has thrown her plan into chaos. A crew member aboard the jet reports that they are flying over Gangwon. Doon confirms they have the Mrs. tracking signal. Chief Kim touches the earpiece hidden under her white hair as it beeps and thinks that she planted tracking chips in all the Mrs. clothes for emergencies. The bug she planted transmits he's voice, asking for help with washing up, and hearing the other accept. She jumps into the open sky in a red suit and goggles, stabilizing herself in the roaring wind. Listening to them talk, she curses Jun-ho internally. As she falls, a report overlays her thoughts. She reviews that Go-deok-chun is an alias and that the real identity is Kim Jun-ho, carrying roughly 200 million won in debt. She concludes he must be another opportunist chasing the Mrs. Money. Even while calling him meticulous and dangerous, she catches herself thinking that his physique is attractive, then scolds herself and regains focus, deciding he is a beast who could charm anyone off guard, and that the sheltered miss is especially vulnerable. She crashes through a window in an explosion of glass and rises from the shards in a black suit, declaring that she will handle Kim Jun-ho personally and that she must protect the miss. What she finds stops her cold. See, he is relaxed with foam in her hair, leaning comfortably against Jun-ho's broad back while he washes her hair with careful hands. See, he thinks that the angle of his shoulders and arms feels steady and soothing, and that his touch is gentle like a chef handling delicate ingredients. She feels fully pampered and rates the experience as 5-star in her head. Chief Kim calls out to the miss. See, he startles and recognizes her. As he dries her hair, See, he asks if he could do it every day. Chief Kim erupts, accusing him of tarnishing the miss's hair. She pulls See, he close and checks her condition. See, he answers that she feels refreshed. She hides her own injured hand behind her back so Secretary Kim doesn't notice. See, he still reaches for Jun-ho's hand and looks up at him with shining eyes, thinking that her heart will not slow down. Chief Kim wedges herself between them, shoves Jun-ho back by the face, and demands that he release the miss's hand, offering her own instead. He declines and points out the shattered window and scattered glass, asking whether her household does not use doors and grumbling that his place is wrecked. Chief Kim snaps that compensation will come from the Shach group and says that should be obvious. Jun-ho fires back that if they worry so much, they should have kept See. He secured and asks why they let this happen. Kim states that 3 minutes is enough. He repeats the time and she explains that 3 minutes is all it takes for someone who kidnaps See, he to be shot. At her signal, red sniper beams sweep across his body in the room. She gestures at the lasers and says that this is exactly her point. He insists inwardly that he did nothing wrong though. See, he apologizes for disappearing without notice, explaining she felt suffocated. Secretary Kim pets her and says that it's okay as long as she reports without vanishing. See, his stomach growls loudly, and Secretary Kim stiffly claims responsibility to protect her Mrs. Honor. Jun-ho says they should eat first. Food is set out. See, he recognizes stir-fried spicy chicken and grows excited. Jun-ho is surprised she has never eaten it and tells her to start. She explains that her right hand is hurt and cannot manage well. He suspects she is doing it deliberately. Jun-ho lifts a piece with chopsticks and feeds her, telling her to open up. She blushes and thanks him, flustered by his directness. It's a juicy chicken thigh bursting with sauce, crunchy cabbage, and deeply caramelized chili paste flavor that keeps drawing her back. In her dazed enjoyment, she compares the pull of the dish to Jun-ho himself and senses it is dangerously addictive. He signals for her to be quiet and follow his lead, then tells her to wrap it with cheese. She thinks both the dish and the man are wicked. Still embarrassed, she prepares a large wrap and pushes it toward his mouth, insisting he eat too and adding more meat. He bites and chews with effort. After they settle, she admits she caused him trouble and asks why he is suddenly kind. He says he will do whatever it takes to protect what is precious to him. She realizes with shock that he means her and beams with happiness. He studies her and thinks she is a devilish woman who uses his weak spots without hesitation. While continuing to eat through the heat, Jun-ho vows internally that even if he has to feed her, wash her, or even if she treats him like a toy, he will protect his truck and livelihood no matter who comes. Suddenly, See, he clasps her bandaged hands and announces that they should marry immediately. He freezes, overwhelmed, then thinks that maybe he should not invite absolutely everything at once. A heavy silence follows. Chief Kim again claims the loud stomach noise and insists this time it is truly hers. Fried rice is offered so she will not be left out. Chief Kim is shaken that he even shows care through food, and thinks he is dangerously disarming. Sitting across from her, Jun-ho demands to know what she wants and tells her to go home. She grabs his collar and warns that he is asking to be killed, calling him a punk and demanding to know what he is trying to do to their household. Her earpiece crackles with a report about the chairwoman. She reacts in alarm. Outside, a giant screen announces a showdown between Go Deok Chun's food truck and Melamin, Jun, Ho and Nam Si. He look up at it together while she wonders what is happening. Reporters swarm, thrusting microphones forward and bombarding Jun Ho with questions about whether he challenged SH Foods executive chef Melamin and whether he is confident as a 3-star Gomeng chef. He tries to deny it, but the noise overwhelms him. A final warning cuts through, stating that if he loses, Shach will take his name and all his recipes and asking if he accepts those terms. See, he is shocked, and Jun Ho turns stiffly and asks what they just said. A mysterious woman stands beside a sleek luxury car. The chairwoman lifts the window shutter and states that this is not a match but an assault. She insists that Chef Min crush him completely and mercilessly so that, at the very moment he clings to his cooking, he understands how easily it can be trampled. She adds that he must learn exactly who he is up against. Chef Min replies with calm certainty that they will not meet again because he will leave on his own. She then strides toward the stage. Reporters swarm her the moment she appears. They ask Ella Min how it feels to compete against a mere food truck cook. They press her for a response to Deok Chun's provocation. A few shamelessly comment on her beauty and ask whether she has a boyfriend. Jun Ho studies her carefully. This is the woman who came openly to take his truck. Now she stands in front of him, looking at him as if measuring his worth. She thinks that he is Kim Jun Ho, the man Nam Si-hee chose, the one whose food was good enough to win Si-hee over. A memory flashes through Ella's mind. She recalls preparing a dish for Si-hee using only the finest ingredients. Si-hee had barely taken a proper bite. That slight had burned inside her. She remembers wondering how it was possible when her cuisine was exotic, refined, impossible to imitate. To her it was the ultimate taste. In that memory, she had asked Si-hee whether she had lost her appetite, or whether something was wrong with the dish. Si-hee had replied that it was delicious. Then she had calmly added that it was not the real food she was looking for. The phrase real food had ignited fury in Ella. Back in the present, Jun Ho states that he assumes chairwoman Yoon-hee Young sent her, but he advises her to quit before things get messy. Ella grabs his shirt and declares that he should stop talking nonsense. She demands to know whether he truly believes that cooking on the street puts him on her level. She says she has no interest in his small, time cooking games and tells him to disappear. As she walks past Si-hee, she tells her to wait and watch, promising to show her what real food looks like. Si-hee grows uneasy as the situation escalates. She calls out to Deok Chun and apologizes, saying she will find a way to fix this. Jun Ho firmly refuses. He says he cannot stand by while someone insults food trucks. Si-hee feels impressed by his composure. Jun Ho adds that he will throw Ella's words back at her by proving what real cooking truly is. Uncle Deok Chun encourages him and the scene shifts to the truck. Jun Ho confirms that the match will be decided by food truck sales and that the main ingredient is potatoes. Si-hee anxiously reveals that Ella Min is one of the top ranked chefs in the world and asks what dish they can possibly make to win. Jun Ho answers that since victory depends on sales volume, they need something everyone enjoys. He says they will decide the menu later and first secure fresh potatoes from Gangwon province. Si-hee eagerly agrees, but at the grocery store the shelves are empty. Si-hee suggests the supermarket, yet it is also out of stock. They check a local shop, then a traditional market, certain they will find some there. Every place is empty. Jun Ho asks a market owner why there are no potatoes in Gangwon province and wonders if a typhoon struck. The owner explains that something like a typhoon did pass through, but it was Sage who swept them all away. Jun Ho freezes. The owner gestures toward a line of food trucks and says he does not know what possessed them, but they bought potatoes at 10 times the normal price. Trucks drive off loaded with stacks of potatoes piled high. Jun Ho admits that they have been outplayed before the competition even began. It is a dirty trick. Nearby, a crowd surrounds Si-hee, admiring her beauty and asking whether she is married. Jun Ho shoots her a look, thinking she seems oddly entertained. She approaches him holding a single potato and says she managed to find some. He tells her that ordinary potatoes are easy to find, but compared to freshly harvested ones, they are a serious disadvantage. At that moment, someone announces that there are plenty of potatoes at his house. They turn in surprise. A boy named Taebong says he has about 100. Jun Ho's expression shifts as he asks whether Taebong truly said 100. The camera pans over a wide field, and Jun Ho remarks that there must be over 1,000. With permission granted, they rush to harvest before sunset. Time passes, the sun sinks low, and Jun Ho is nearly finished. Si calls out that they have already peeled over 100 potatoes. Jun Ho notices her dress and thinks that even dressed for the field, she still looks like a city girl. She suddenly stumbles and falls awkwardly. He sighs and offers his hand, telling her to rest and warning that her injured hand could worsen. She feels touched and wraps her arms around him, asking if he is that worried about her. He insists that it is not about her but about protecting the hand. She teases that he is cute. Taebong calls out that it is snack time. They are served mekjeoli and potato pancakes. Jun Ho takes a bite, curious about pancakes made from freshly harvested potatoes. The taste surprises him. He senses the natural sweetness and softness instantly. The deep savory flavor fills his mouth. He thinks it would almost be a waste to dip them in soy sauce. The ingredients speak for themselves. With potatoes like these, he believes he can win. Sihi raises a cup of make jolly and proposes a cheerful toast. They drink deeply, feeling refreshed after a long day's work. Then Junho realizes it is Mac Jolly and she is allergic. But it is too late. The alcohol hits her quickly. Her vision blurs as she calls his name. Memories of their time together flood her mind, overlapping like a dream. She feels overwhelming happiness beside him. She thinks she never wants to let him go again. Then another thought cuts through her haze. She realizes that because of her mother, she cannot protect Mr. Deok-chun. He asks him if he is suffering. She wonders aloud whether loving her is difficult. In her blurred state, she sees her mother's hand gripping him, and she cries out, telling him not to leave. The scene snaps back to reality. She is lying on top of Junho, tears streaming down her face. Junho, confused, asks if she is alright. Her vision is clouded by tears, and she keeps muttering that he must not go away. Her tears drip onto his face as he stares up at her, deeply concerned. His eyes suddenly widen when she collapses fully against him, catching him completely off guard. A brief recap reveals what led to this moment. Earlier, she had passed out on the ground, deliriously calling Deok-chun a squid while hallucinating. Junho had still needed to dig up more potatoes, yet he knew he could not leave her alone in that state. She would only cause trouble. He carried her instead, thinking to himself that she constantly gave him reasons to worry. As he looked down at her, he quietly said her name in his thoughts. Taebong's uncle later drove them back with the harvested potatoes loaded in the truck. Sihi rested heavily against Junho's shoulder. She groaned and apologized to Deok-chun in her sleep. Noticing the sweat on her skin, Junho wondered what kind of nightmare could make her grip his hand so tightly. She whispered weakly that he must not go. The tremble in her voice nearly shook his heart. His hand shifted toward hers. And he thought that he felt so sorry for her that he instinctively wanted to hold her hand. He quickly told himself that his uncle should not misunderstand. He insisted that she was just a wicked woman who happened to be drunk, and that holding her hand for now did not mean he had fallen for her. Later, Junho thanked the elder for letting them stay the night. He decided to call Chief Kim to pick Sihi up. Just then, rain began to pour. With no time to waste, he lifted her from the truck and carried her inside. There was only one mattress. Taebong cheerfully announced that he had found another pillow. Junho, unwilling to inconvenience them, told Taebong that Sihi would be leaving soon. But when he tried to call Chief Kim, the signal failed because of the rain. Sihi slept soundly, snoring loudly. Junho muttered that she was driving him insane. He complained that it made no sense for the phone to lose signal over a little rain. The real culprit appears elsewhere. The ghostly uncle gathers his spiritual energy and directs it at the power line, snapping it. He laughs wildly and assures his daughter-in-law that she can thank him later. Back inside, Junho cannot sleep with a woman beside him. Sihi groans that she feels hot, removes her jacket, and tosses it onto him. She calls his name. When he turns, he is startled to find her already hovering over him. She is crying again. He asks if she is okay. Through tear-filled eyes, she tells him not to leave her. As her tears fall onto his face, he warns himself not to be fooled. He thinks that this must be one of her tricks, and that if he gets swept up in it, he is finished. Yet he cannot ignore how genuinely hurt she looks. His eyes widen again when she collapses onto him. This time she has simply fallen asleep on top of him. He apologizes inwardly to his uncle, saying he truly tried to avoid this situation. Unbeknownst to him, the uncle had orchestrated it all. The next morning, sunlight streams into the room. Sihi sleeps comfortably, while Junho has not slept at all. She wakes and casually asks whether he slept well. Junho fumes internally, convinced she plotted to ruin his condition before the competition. Soon, the competition begins. A massive crowd gathers as the announcer declares that both chefs are competing with their names and honor at stake. He introduces the man who staked his life on a food truck, Go Deok-chun, and the executive chef of the global corporation SH Food Ella Min. The time limit is 2 hours. The audience's choice will determine their fate. The announcer asks what dish will emerge from the humble potato and declares the competition started. Junho focuses intensely. He thinks that he must win because losing means losing everything. He admits to himself that to defeat Ella, his usual simple cooking will not suffice. He begins by toasting a brioche bun in clarified butter to form a crisp oil barrier, sprinkling a pinch of salt, then caramelizing the surface with sugar until it forms a thin, glass-like crust. The filling is the key. He blends potatoes with butter and heavy cream, passing them through a sieve to create a fluffy puree base. He mixes egg yolks with salt and cream, cooking them gently until thickened into a dense semi-custard. He bowls the egg whites separately, minces them finely, and sautés them to remove moisture and enhance texture. Then comes his secret ingredient. He warms acacia honey with a small amount of butter and water, adds lemon juice and white pepper, and brushes it over the bread. He rings the bell, announcing that his potato egg mousse bread is complete. The announcer presents the dish and says that before tasting it, he will invite their special guest, Nam Sihi. She looks surprised. Together, they take a bite. The announcer remarks that it is better than expected. He describes the salty, Savory bread is reminiscent of salt bread. He praises the delicate crunch of the thin caramelized coating and finds the combination of bouncy egg whites and rich potato mousse interesting. He highlights the honey sauce as elevating the dish. Sihi, however, thinks differently. She admits inwardly that it tastes good but believes it is merely decorative refinement. She stops after one bite. She looks at Junho with disappointment mixed with concern, wondering whether Dae Ok-chun is afraid. Then Ella finishes her dish, a beautifully arranged truffle potato meal, fuil. She explains that she thinly sliced potatoes, brushed them with truffle butter, stacked them and baked them into a flower, like mill, fuel shape. The announcer exclaims that it truly resembles a flower and praises its stunning presentation. Ella continues, stating that she balanced the richness of the potatoes with lemon butter foam for acidity, added finely diced shallot confit for sweetness, incorporated bacon chips for saltiness, and finished with truffle and basil oil for aroma. The announcer tastes it and declares that it melts smoothly, flavors unfolding while the aroma bursts through. He describes it as if the potato is dressed in luxury and says it feels heavenly. Customers are already lining up to try it. The gap feels overwhelming, as expected of Chef Ella Min. Ella looks proudly at Sihi and internally boasts that her dish is flawless, calculated down to the smallest detail. She thinks about the cloud, like yet dense texture, the balance of salt and acidity, the rich fat coating the mouth, and the fragrance of basil and truffle. She angrily tells herself that her cooking should never be compared to trash and that hers is the true, superior cuisine. The announcer asks Nam Sihi to share her review. Sihi dabs her mouth gracefully and states that unfortunately, neither dish is the real deal. Ella burns with rage. Customers begin voicing their agreement with Sihi. Some describe Dae Ok-chun's dish as mediocre, only slightly better than basic potato bread. Others complain that the potato flavor is weak and the taste predictable despite its appearance. Junho visibly struggles as he hears the criticism. Sihi approaches him with her head lowered and asks whether he wants to run away. Junho grips his knife tightly and demands to know if she is joking. He tells her to stop because he cannot endure this right now. She insists that he is already running away. Finally losing his temper, Junho turns and shouts at her to stop. To his shock, Sihi grabs him by the collar and shouts back that he is the one who must stop cooking like that. Nam Sihi fixes him with a cold, shaking glare and shouts that he needs to stop immediately. Go Ok-chun stiffens, confused, and murmurs that he does not understand what she means. She studies him as if trying to peel apart the man, standing before her from the one preserved in her memories. She thinks about the Ok-chun she once knew, about the warmth of his cooking, and at the same time her own refined dishes linger bitterly in her mind as a harsh comparison. Inside the food truck, Ok-chun stands over the cutting board. A knife rests nearby. He stares down at the food he prepared and wonders why he even made it. He admits to himself that this is the first genuine emotion he has felt in this truck in 3 years. He questions whether it is fear of losing or simple anger. He rejects both explanations and states flatly that he is not happy. His eyes drift to a framed photo Uncle Ok-chun. He asks himself who he really is, and who he is supposed to be. The scene pulls back to an overhead view of the competition grounds. The stage sits beneath the open sky, surrounded by a massive crowd, his uncle's ghost watching with a serious expression. Then he shouts. The weight of it presses him down on his head. A furious voice echoes in his head, screaming his real name, calling him Kim Jun-ho. His uncle slams forward against the counter and roars that he should just quit already, calling him a bastard. His eyes widen. Jun-hee breathes out the word, "Okul," in disbelief. Yet when he looks up, no one is there. An announcement booms that 40 minutes remain and demands to know whether Go Ok-chun is forfeiting. Suddenly he moves. The truck speeds down a narrow road, a black SUV following close behind. Inside the car, the chairwoman leans against the window in tense silence, watching the distance swallow the remaining time. Back at the venue, the host announces that Chairwoman Yoon-hee, young of Sage, has arrived in person and calls for applause. She steps forward like royalty under a wide black umbrella, dressed in black with pearls and a white coat draped over her shoulders. Chief Kim stands behind her, rigid and alert. Sihi sits near the front, appearing small against the towering stage and restless crowd. The chairwoman coolly asks what happened to that man. Chef Min presents her plated dish and reports that he ran away, that he struggled in his own way, but ultimately accepted reality and understood who he was facing. The chairwoman narrows her eyes and says that she understands, adding that this is all he amounted to. She tells Chef Min that she did well and assures her that proper compensation will be arranged. But just then, his truck comes flying overhead. Then taking position nearby, Sihi's breath falters. She stammers about the truck. Suddenly flames erupt along the side of the food truck. Equipment crashes to the ground as fire spreads, heat shimmering through thick smoke. Junho apologizes and declares that Go Ok-chun's truck will resume shortly. Nearby, the chairwoman stiffens and remarks that this development is unpleasant. Ok-chun tightens his glove, his expression sharpening. He recalls when Sihi shouted that he must stop. Her reaction shakes him. He realizes this is not who he used to be. He admits that he became obsessed with winning and forgot his uncle's teachings. Memories return preparing food while sharing customers' anticipation, feeling nervous as they take their first bite, watching their faces brighten with laughter and relief. He reminds himself that hearing someone say it is delicious brings a happiness no money can match. He declares inwardly that this is why he runs a food truck. He confesses that he became greedy and arrogant. He looks at the potato and acknowledges that it is already complete as it is. In a desperate, almost absurd moment, he begs for one more chance. Onlookers whisper that he must be insane for talking to a potato. Chef Melaman grips her own potato tightly and vows that she will crush him. Their knives begin to move in rhythm, blades flashing as slices fall thinner and denser. She boasts that she will demonstrate the true difference in their levels. Soon, the crowd begins shouting about glasses. Confused voices repeat the word. Then they realize that paper, thin potato slices have clung to their lenses, so transparent they were invisible. Excitement surges as people wonder how the competition will shift and what Deok-chun plans to do. He examines his result and mutters that it is a failure. Voices nearby declare that he is finished. With 20 minutes left and defeat looming, he suddenly drops whole potatoes into a cauldron of oil. Gasps ripple through the crowd. People question whether he is merely making French fries. Melamine scoffs that all that effort for fries is ridiculous. The bell rings. Both dishes are ready again. It is announced that the choice is between softer potatoes and crunchier potatoes, and that the decision will determine everything. A sharp crunch breaks the air, then another. The sound echoes loudly enough to make people flinch. Sihi leans toward Taebong with an awkward smile and asks how Uncle's food tastes. Taebong replies with wide eyes that it tastes exactly like potato flavor, holding up a fry in disbelief at its simplicity. As he feeds her, crunching spreads through the crowd. People chant through mouthfuls that it is potato flavor, repeating the phrase while chewing nonstop. Beneath the chorus of crunches lingers the question of why this simple taste feels so overwhelmingly satisfying. Taebong cries that Nuna ate everything. Nam Si-yu stares at the final fry near her lips and wonders if it is truly just an ordinary French fry. The moment she bites, her eyes widen. She declares that this is it, explaining that she can see the dense layers created by those precise knife cuts. She says that biting into them at once releases a crisp snap like stepping on dry autumn leaves. Another customer bites in loudly and describes how the rich aroma and flavor of fresh potatoes explode in the mouth. It notes that even before the tongue fully processes the taste, the brain is flooded with dopamine as the name, Crunch Potato Freeze, flashes like a signature. The crowd surges toward Go Deok-chun's truck, shouting in disbelief that they are already sold out and begging for more. Someone points out that they cost only 3,500 won and insists on buying more. Another voice demands 3, then quickly changes it to 5. Deok-chun lifts his strainer high like a banner and announces that 5 crunch potato fries are coming right up. Sihi thinks that this is food that brings happiness and warmth to people's hearts. Sihi clasps her hands tightly, her eyes shining, and realizes that this is the cooking she truly fell in love with. Across from them, fries land onto plates as crumbs scatter. The chairwoman's gaze hardens. She crushes the food and states that it is not over yet. She calls for Chief Kim and snaps her fingers. A loud countdown announces that 10 minutes remain. The announcer panics and asks what that is, looking at something. Deok-chun looks up in shock. He states quietly that there is no way. As SH Group's trucks rolled into view, Junho immediately realized they were pulling another cowardly stunt. Men began pouring out of the vehicles, and the announcer reacted with open shock, asking what was happening and whether SH was really deploying its own employees. He starts to point out that even as the host, this clearly crossed a line, but before he can finish, Secretary Kim quietly presses a thick bundle of cash into his hands. Rowe folds at once and shamelessly changes his tune, praising SH Group's corporate values and saying that even their employees were being treated like honored guests. Secretary Kim then walks away and coldly orders her men to silence anyone who objects to what is happening. With only 10 minutes left, the line in front of Chef Ella Min's food truck reverses once again, making the result impossible to predict. Meanwhile, the real customers begin voicing their frustration. They complain that this was supposed to be a fair showdown and question whether any of this could honestly be called just. They condemn it as nothing more than the tyranny of a giant corporation. Some pity Deok-chun and say that SH is only about to win by relying on dirty tricks. Others ask whether the company feels no shame. Chef Min hears those remarks while also enduring mockery caused by SH Group's underhanded tactics, and her anger erupts. She tears off her toque and storms toward the chairwoman, furiously shouting her name. Secretary Kim quickly steps in to block her path and tells her to calm down, but Chef Min angrily demands that the employees be removed at once. She declares that her cooking can crush trash like that whenever she wants. The chairwoman calmly raises a cigarette to her lips, and one of her employees lights it for her. As she exhales, she coldly repeats the phrase, trash, and asks exactly whose cooking Chef Min is insulting. Chef Min stiffens. The customers clearly are not enjoying her food. One woman tells her son that he should at least take one more bite since the meal was so expensive, but the boy refuses and says that it tastes bad. Others comment that the flavor is refined and luxurious, yet somehow there is no fun in eating it. They grumble that it costs 15,000 won, yet they can barely manage a few bites. Chef Min then notices one customer buying a cola to drink with her dish. Furious, she snatches the bottle away and screams at him, demanding to know whether he is out of his mind for pairing cola with her perfect food. The customer angrily shouts back that he paid for it and asks what business it is of hers. In a burst of rage, she crushes the bottle in her hand while inwardly seething that people like them are not worthy of eating her dish. She thinks that it is food they will never truly understand in their entire lives and that they should adapt themselves to her cooking instead. At the same time, Junho watches the clock and sees that only 5 minutes remain. At this rate, he believes he is going to lose. His hope begins to collapse, but at that moment, Sihi suddenly grabs a microphone and tests the sound. She then cheerfully greets the crowd and points toward her stall, announcing that SH's new beer will now be offered for free tasting. The crowd erupts in excitement. Junho is stunned by her boldness, but the reaction is instant. People rush toward his food truck with beer in hand, excitedly saying that fries pair perfectly with it. Sihi personally hands out free beers to the customers, and the free drinks drive them to buy even more fries from Junho. Encouraged by her unexpected support, Junho throws himself into the work. He starts seasoning the fries with flashy skill and keeps pace with the overwhelming flood of orders. As the final seconds approach, the announcer begins the countdown to the end of the showdown. The crowd roars with excitement and starts cheering loudly for Deok-chun's food truck. Sehi joins the cheering with bright enthusiasm, while her mother watches with obvious displeasure. On the other side, Chef Min focuses intensely on her own cooking, determined to defeat Junho. Then, just like that, the showdown ends. The announcer comments that it was a fierce food truck battle between two chefs, both using Gangwon Province potatoes as the centerpiece of their dishes. He prepares to reveal the winner, but before the announcement comes, the scene shifts to later in the evening. The sun is already setting, and Chef Ella Min remains alone in her food truck, staring silently at her food. At last, she moves as if to throw it away, but a voice stops her and says that if she is going to discard it, she should at least give it to him instead. Startled, she turns and sees Kim Junho holding out 20,000 won, offering to buy it from her. He takes a bite. The moment it touches his tongue, the flavor bursts across his senses. He inwardly marvels that it is unbelievable and wonders what she even did to those potatoes. He admits to himself that he cannot even imagine copying it. He concludes inwardly that he has nothing to say because her cooking exists on an entirely different level. Holding up his fork, he asks how such a thin slice of potato could carry that much depth of flavor. Ella scowls and explains that she did not use only potatoes. She reveals that she spread truffle butter over it. Then, flaring up like a devil, she demands to know why she should be telling him any of this and snaps at him to stop asking questions. Junho keeps eating anyway and says that it cannot be helped. He casually asks her to give him another serving. She explodes and furiously demands to know whether the bastard came just to gloat because he won. Before she can go any further, Junho plainly tells her that it is delicious and that he wants to eat her cooking again. Chef Ella freezes. A blush rises to her face, and inwardly she wonders whether the shock of defeat is what caused this strange feeling. She reflects that she has never felt anything like it before. Deep inside, she suddenly wants to create something even more delicious just for him. Recovering herself, she points at him and orders him not to move. She declares that she will make something his cheap palate could never hope to imitate. A faint smile appears on her face as she begins cooking again. At that moment, Nam Sehi arrives and praises him for his hard work. Junho thanks her for helping him earlier, but Sehi gives him a bright wink and lightly says that she has no idea what he means. She insists that she was only there to promote SH's new beer. Still confused, Junho asks why she helped him at all. He points out that if he had lost, she could have used that chance to take everything she wanted from him. Sehi replies that it is not something she wants badly enough to obtain with her mother's help. Junho leans in closer and asks what the real reason is behind her obsession with him. With a warm and loving smile, Sehi finally reveals that she likes him. Hearing that, Junho narrows his eyes and thinks that she is truly a difficult woman. Her expression does not change in the slightest, yet he is convinced she is planning to legally seize the food truck's brand rights and recipes through marriage. Nam Si-hee wraps herself tightly around him and urges him to marry her already. Caught off guard, he jerked back and warns her not to come any closer, shouting that he will get shot if she does. From inside the truck, Ella Min stares at them with open irritation and yells that he really did come just to rub it in. She furiously tells both of them to disappear. Sometime later, a phone keeps ringing with new messages. In the group chat, Park Yuri suggests that they all go on a trip and reacts with excitement. Shin Soo-hyun responds with a sign of approval. Nam Si-hee says that she loves trips and asks Deok-chun whether he is coming too. Park Yuri proposes Gapyeong Valley and says that they had gone there before and that it had been great back then as well. Shin Soo-hyun sends another approving response. Nam Si-hee eagerly says that she loves playing in the water and asks Deok-chun once more whether he likes it too. Park Yuri says that she will reserve the lodging, and Nam Si-hee boldly declares that they should leave the very next day. The following day, Nam Si-hee sends him a message saying that she is already waiting in front of his house and tells him to come outside. He stares at the message without saying a word. At the valley, the four of them make their way together through the shallow stream. Nam Si-hee says that she loves the sound of the water and that the place truly feels like a real valley. She calls for Deok-chun to hurry and warns everyone to watch their steps so they do not slip. Then someone notices a fish and excitedly points it out. Nearby, a watermelon drifts along the surface of the water. Junho lies back in the stream and reflects that for the last 3 years he has done nothing but run forward without stopping. He thinks that sometimes it feels good to pause and actually look around. As he watches the others, he notices that the two women seem to have grown surprisingly close as well. Park Yuri splashes Nam Sihi with water, and Nam Sihi complains that her makeup will come off if she keeps doing that. She splashes water back and accuses Yuri of showing off for someone. Junho then turns to Shin Soo-hyun and asks whether it was Soo-hyun he had been looking at, then wonders aloud whether he does not like water. He walks over, hooks an arm around him, and says that he is glad Soo-hyun came because trying to fit in while surrounded by women is exhausting. He asks whether Soo-hyun served in the military. Sitting close with a firm grip on his shoulder, he tells him to eat more and work out so he will not get hurt there. Soo-hyun quietly thanks him and respectfully calls him sir. Junho tells him that if he is Yuri's friend, then he is his friend too, and says that he should just call him Hung. After hesitating, Soo-hyun softly calls him Hung. Right then, someone notices that the watermelon is floating away. Soo-hyun says that he will go after it, and Junho asks whether he really plans to do that while warning him to be careful. Soo-hyun steps into the water to chase the drifting watermelon, but in the very next moment, he loses his footing and crashes into the stream. Nam Sihi cries out in panic that Soo-hyun cannot swim and frantically says that she will get a tube. Before anyone else can react, Junho rips off his cap and throws himself into the water. The women shout for Deok-chun and Appa as he dives under. He reaches Soo-hyun beneath the surface, grabs hold of him, and drags him back up. Holding him securely, Junho rises from the water with a heavy splash. Breathing hard, he asks whether he is all right. Soaked and shaking, Soo-hyun weakly says that he is. Then, with tears glistening in his eyes, he calls him Hung again. The timid way Soo-hyun says that word makes Junho's mind betray him. For one brief instant, Soo-hyun looks like a crying girl in his eyes, and the shock hits him so hard that he blurts out that he is not young before dropping straight into the water in complete disarray. Park Yuri notices his strange reaction and asks what on earth he is thinking. Junho avoids her gaze and says that he is thinking about something completely absurd. He keeps insisting to himself that he must have seen it wrong and that it was probably only water in his eyes. Even so, still shaken, he awkwardly asks Yuri what she would do if he told her that he were actually a girl. Yuri stares at him in confusion, but her imagination instantly runs wild. In her head, a female Junho leans in close and sweetly suggests making double chewy cookies together. The fantasy sends her spiraling as she thinks that she would love it, hate it, and rather die than hate it, all at the same time. Before the atmosphere can become even more bizarre, Seihi and Yuri announce that they are going to a nearby mart before the sun sets. As they leave, they say that Soo-hyun should stay behind and help Appa cook. Along with Soo-hyun, Junho tries to focus on chopping ingredients, but his thoughts are in complete chaos. Clearing his throat awkwardly, he says that he is no longer sure whether calling Soo-hyun a guy was the mistake. Then he immediately corrects himself and says that calling him the opposite might be an even bigger mistake. In the end, he gives up entirely and says that they should just cook. He adds that he will cut the onions himself, since they would only make Soo-hyun's eyes sting. That fragile calm lasts only for a moment. Soo-hyun keeps drifting too close, and Junho feels himself losing control. He thinks that this is driving him insane and admits to himself that he has no idea what is going on in her head. He cannot stop wondering who Soo-hyun really is. Then Soo-hyun leans close enough to brush a whisper against his ear and quietly asks whether he is curious. Junho freezes, and Soo-hyun tells him to find out on his own. With that, she lightly guides his hand to her cheek, pushing him even closer to the edge. Then Soo-hyun softly calls him Appa. Startled out of his mind, Junho panics, jumps back, and tumbles straight into the river. A loud splash follows, and Soo-hyun resurfaces only to casually say that it was just a joke. A little later, Seihi and Yuri return and cheerfully announce that they are back. They find Junho soaked through and staring blankly at his own hand in disbelief. Yuri teasingly asks whether he had been playing in the water all by himself, while Seihi completely melts and gushes over how adorable Mr. Deok-chun is. Their attention quickly shifts when a rich smell begins to spread through the valley. Junho lifts the lid and reveals the food, saying that nobody comes to a valley without eating spicy braised chicken. He introduces the dish as water dropwort braised chicken. Seihi says that she has never eaten it before and wonders whether it is something like coco vin. Junho tells her to stop guessing and taste it first. The instant she takes a bite, it feels as if the entire valley has been poured into the dish. The warmth of the sunlight, the coolness of the breeze, and the fresh scent of water dropwort seem to melt into the food itself. The lightly blanched greens add a crisp bite to the broth, and their slight bitterness awakens her appetite even more. Then the chicken follows, chewy and generous, coated in a sweet and spicy seasoning so addictive that it feels impossible to dislike. The others begin eating as well. Junho explains that because he marinated the chicken ahead of time, even the breast meat stays tender and full of flavor. He happily eats the potatoes that soaked up the broth and says that those alone are good enough to finish with an entire bowl of rice. Yuri is amazed that the broth does not feel heavy at all and instead tastes clean and refreshing. She wonders whether that distinct finish comes from Chongyang chili or garlic. Junho reveals that his little trick is a pinch of ginger powder, which keeps the broth tasting fresh and neat. By the time the meal is over, everyone is completely satisfied. They praise it as an excellent meal. Yuri says that she is totally full and also delighted by the beautiful scenery, the food, and Mr. Deokchan himself. For a while, they sit quietly with their feet in the cold water and enjoy the calm. Then Junho offers everyone watermelon as well. After that simple dessert, he says that they should clean up before sunset and return to the lodge. Night settles over the lodge, but the peace does not survive for long. Seihi suddenly notices that Yuri is wearing Junho's shirt and immediately demands to know what is going on with their matching clothes. Junho calmly explains that he only lent it to her, but Seihi instantly explodes and demands that Yuri take it off because they look like a couple. Yuri shrieks that this uni has completely lost her mind. Junho tries to stop the argument before it grows worse by saying that he will pour Seihi a drink too if she calms down. He tells everyone to stop already and just drink. The glasses are filled, and the group raises them in a lively toast. Once the alcohol starts flowing, Yuri spots the karaoke machine and excitedly says that they absolutely have to sing. She snatches the microphone first and throws herself into a playful but openly provocative song. Through the lyrics, she declares that Seihi will never win Appa over by acting like that, and boasts that she will steal him away with her own youthful and charming appeal. She even compares Seihi to Dubai chocolate with a bittersweet pistachio taste, turning the whole performance into a smiling attack. Watching all of this, Junho thinks with satisfaction that he knew this would work as a distraction. Then his mind drifts somewhere completely different, and he suddenly begins wondering in all seriousness whether Dubai chocolate might actually sell well too, and why he had never considered it before. Meanwhile, the tension between the women grows even harsher. Yuri boldly claims that she understands Appa's taste far better than Seihi ever could. Seihi shoots back a glare, looking exactly like an older rival sizing up a brat who is trying too hard to seem fresh. Then Seihi strides straight over to Junho and demands that he sing a duet with her. Junho immediately says that he genuinely hates singing. Even so, the moment the microphone ends up in his hand, he starts singing without much resistance. His voice turns out to be far better than anyone expected, and he smoothly carries the duet, even through a line about only being able to laugh and asking whether the other person still sees him as a child. Seihi beams with satisfaction and teasingly asks Yuri what she thinks of that, calling it a couple song with Mr. Deokchun and asking whether she feels jealous. Yuri immediately swells with irritation. She protests that the next verse belongs to her and complains that the key sits too low. Then she barges right back in, shouting that everything from 1 to 10 is nonsense and demanding that Mr. Spettel, Deokchun, sing with her instead. The whole room falls into loud disorder. Another lyric about yelling nonsense at people who refuse to listen echoes through the room. Can only stare in amazement, and Yuri ends up marveling that she never knew a person could sing with his arm muscles too. Junho tries to put an end to the chaos, but he only ends up shouting even harder into the mic. When the song finally comes to an end, he repeats that he truly hates singing. The others instantly point out that for someone who says that, he looked like the person in the world who wanted to sing more than anyone. As the drinks keep coming, Junho tells everyone to slow down. The girls make fun of him for sounding like an old man and immediately suggest another game instead. They settle on the paper passing game, where the team that transfers the fewest slips using their mouths has to drink. Junho takes one look at the setup and realizes the trap at once. He points out that if all three of them are on one side while he is alone on the other, then he is guaranteed to lose and end up drinking. Nobody pays attention. Yuri goes first with him. The paper sits between their lips, and the space between their faces disappears. The instant their mouths brush through the paper, Yuri's mind goes completely blank. She feels Appa's lips so clearly that she crumbles into a blushing panic, wondering what she is even supposed to do now. Before she can recover, time is called, and her side fails to score anything at all. Next, Seihi proudly declares that now it is her turn with Mr. Deokchun and says that she is fully ready. She leans in with obvious confidence, but Junho destroys the mood almost immediately by handling the pass too roughly and too directly. Seihi pulls back and scolds him, saying that this is not how the game is supposed to be played. Then it becomes Soo-hyun's turn. The moment the round begins, a strange series of popping sounds starts bursting out one after another. Everyone looks around in confusion and asks what that noise is supposed to be. Yuri stares in disbelief and says that it is absurdly fast. Junho and Soo-hyun pass the paper back and forth at ridiculous speed, the number quickly climbing past 20 in no time at all. When Junho reaches for another slip of paper, Soo-hyun quietly points out that they have run out. Junho tries to stop it there, but before he can finish, the paper barrier is gone and the distance vanishes. Their lips meet directly. The moment the paper disappears, Soo-hyun's lips press against Junho's. Junho freezes in complete shock and inwardly begs for it to stop, but the moment lasts less than a heartbeat before chaos explodes. The girls immediately lunge at him. One furiously curses him like a beast and tells him to die, while Yuri flails at him too and cries that Appa is trash. Even while fuming, she blurts out that she still likes him and that she will never forgive him. Junho grabs his head and desperately insists that he had only been standing there. Inside, he keeps repeating that it was an accident. He tries to calm the room by saying that people can make mistakes, but Soo-hyun lightly touches those freshly kissed lips and quietly wonders whether it really was only a mistake. The drinking game continues anyway. Seihi throws out a ridiculous example about once eating pasta floating in zero gravity at a space station, only to be corrected that she is supposed to say something that actually applies to her. Yuri smugly shows off and says that this is how someone folds a guy. Junho, fed up with all of it, says that if they are going to play dirty like that, then he will not fold either. He jokes that he will just be a girl instead and tells them to call him Unni. Seihi laughs and says that Mr. Deokchun forcing that role is strangely cute. Junho, now completely done with everyone, says that they should all just die together and fold anyone who has kissed him. Seihi instantly volunteers herself with bright excitement. Junho dryly points out that this is exactly why it is better not to fold. Yuri shrivels into misery as the only one who never got that far. Someone warns everyone to stay sharp unless they want to drink the awful penalty shot, and they point out that, for the record, only Mr. Deokchun and Soohyun are still left, so now it is Soohyun's turn. Soohyun quietly says that among the people there is someone she likes. That brief confession strikes Junho harder than he expected. The moment he hears it, his thoughts start spiraling. Seihi is the cable heiress who already has everything. Yuri is the comfortable one who feels like a younger sibling. Soohyun is the unreadable mystery whose thoughts never show on the surface. His head starts asking the ridiculous question of which one he would choose, but he immediately recoils from that idea and scolds himself. He tells himself that there is no reason to choose anyone at all because he does not need to fold, and he is not interested in any of the three. Then, instead of staying still, Soohyun suddenly picks up the penalty bowl and drinks from it. Everyone is startled and asks why. Soohyun wipes her mouth and lightly says that it was a mistake and that there had been confusion. Junho immediately thinks that there is no way that was really a mistake, and Seihi and Yuri narrow their eyes as if they suspect exactly the same thing. Later, as the night grows deeper, Junho notices the air turning colder and asks where Soohyun went. He is told that Soohyun stepped out for a walk to sober up and that no one noticed when she left. After a short pause, Junho says that something was left in the car and that he will go get it, but once he is outside, it becomes obvious that he is really searching for Soohyun. He walks through the dark woods, wondering how far Soohyun could have gone and whether walking around alone at night is not scary. Even his uncle's ghost mocks him, calling him a big-bodied coward. Then Soohyun's voice calls out and addresses him as Appa. Junho answers with relief and says that he has been looking for a while, then asks why Soohyun is out there alone. Soohyun sounds surprised and asks whether he had really been searching for her. Then she suddenly appears in front of them like a ghost with a flashlight, causing both Junho and his ghost uncle to scream in terror. Seeing that reaction, Soohyun pauses for a second, then bursts into laughter. Watching that laugh and that sudden panic, Junho unexpectedly thinks that Soohyun seems pretty normal after all. Between that unpredictable personality and all the strange incidents that have piled up so far, he realizes that he had been avoiding Soohyun without even noticing it. He starts to wonder whether Soohyun might simply be a woman in her 20s who is awkwardly trying to get close to him. With that thought, he decides that maybe he should be the one to step forward first, the same way he would with a close younger sibling. He pats Soohyun on the head and says that it is cold and that they should head back inside, this time calling the name Shin Soohyun directly. Soohyun grabs his arm. Junho notices the trembling and asks whether she feels that cold. Soohyun quietly replies that she is not shaking because of the cold. When they return together, linked closely enough to look intimate, Seihi instantly cries out in protest and demands to know why they are coming back like that. She complains about the locked arms and says that if there is going to be a night walk, then it should happen with her too. Yuri immediately jumps in and says that the same should apply to her as well. The two rush him at once. The scene collapses into another mess, and before anyone can stop it, Junho gets knocked straight into the water with a huge splash. He rises back up shirtless and dripping wet. Seihi and Yuri stare at him in stunned silence, then whisper in open admiration that he is unbelievably hot. Junho glares at them and snaps that all of them should just go to sleep already. Later, while he's in the shower, Seihi cheerfully says that Appa's clothes can be used as pajamas and decides that she will leave her own clothes behind as a gift for him. Yuri goes in after her, glances at the clothes, and immediately feels something is off. To her, they clearly look like women's clothes, and suspicion begins to creep in. Her mind starts fitting everything together like scattered puzzle pieces. All the strange things Junho had said, the odd situations that kept piling up, and even his earlier joke about becoming a girl begin resurfacing one by one. She admits to herself that she never really believed it before. Then she admits something even more honest, that maybe she simply had not wanted it to be true. Only now do all the pieces start sliding into place in her head. Drunk Yuri suddenly breaks down in tears and sobs that Unni is hated and that she truly hates Unni. Seihi immediately rushes over to comfort the crying Yuri, fussing over her while also sounding ready to fight anyone if necessary. The entire room sinks deeper into drunken nonsense. After washing up, Junho comes back out with a towel draped around his neck and finds that the girls are already asleep on the bedding. Looking down at them, he thinks that the younger ones drank again and clicks his tongue at the strong smell of alcohol filling the room. His eyes move from one sleeping figure to the next, and he realizes that all of them have collapsed side by side. Then a new problem hits him. With all of them sleeping there like that, there is no obvious place left for him to lie down. Staring at Seihi, Soohyun, and Yuri spread across the futon, he starts panicking inwardly and wonders who in the world he is supposed to sleep next to. Junho lies there in despair, silently begging his uncle for help. His uncle, wearing a deadpan expression, points toward the sofa and then toward the far side of the girls as if the answer could not be more obvious. Junho completely fails to take the hint, and instead starts reasoning his way through the disaster. He decides that Yuri might be the safest choice since she is the youngest and the one he has known for years. But the moment he inches near her, Yuri sleepily murmurs that she wants Appa and does not want sister, and that alone is enough for him to reject that spot immediately. He then turns his attention towards Seihi, but that option feels no safer. Seihi is asleep with flushed cheeks, hugging her pillow, and just imagining himself lying down beside her already makes him uneasy. The very next second, she reaches out of her sleep and murmurs for Mr. Deok-chun. Junho panics at once, thinking that he knew something like this would happen. He barely slips away before she ends up wrapping herself around a pillow instead, sleepily kissing it and murmuring his name with total satisfaction. Junho trembles in relief and thinks that it had been much too close. Then Soo-hyun suddenly wakes and softly calls him Appa. Junho realizes that he is hovering right over Soo-hyun and inwardly declares that he is finished because Shin Soo-hyun is awake now, and there is no way this situation can ever be explained properly. Before the misunderstanding can explode, Soo-hyun quietly asks whether he had nowhere to sleep. Then, Soo-hyun shifts aside, pats the empty space next to her, and gently tells him to lie there and rest comfortably. Junho hesitates, overwhelmed by the exhausting day, the alcohol still lingering in his body, and the strange warmth surrounding him. He thinks that he needs to get away somehow, but sleep reaches him first. When he opens his eyes again, he gasps in horror. All three of them have piled onto him in their sleep. Seihi is draped all over him, Yuri is pressed tightly against him, and Soo-hyun is tucked into him too. Trapped under the full weight of this nightmare, Junho can only beg for help in total silence. Morning arrives, and just like that, he is back at work. Wearing a bandana with Deok-chun written on it, he checks a fresh batch of dumplings and says that they have steamed nicely. Looking down at them, he wonders whether today should become the very first day of business. The story shifts to Jeonju. Junho stands by his food truck and hands over a box of meat dumplings, saying that one order is ready. A long-haired woman steps forward. She first says that she will help with the payment, then shyly asks whether he can really help her. Junho, still completely in business mode, simply responds with the price. The woman, clearly thrown off by that answer, can only ask for pardon. As the awkward moment lingers, Junho recalls what he knows about Sohyang, a famous traditional restaurant in Jeonju with deep roots and more than a century of history. He remembers the tourism pamphlet explaining that Sohyang is practically a cultural landmark and that its late master, Madame Yang Gumhoa, preserved traditional flavors so faithfully that the restaurant came to symbolize the city itself. He then notes that the woman standing in front of him is Yang Miak, the granddaughter of Yang Jum-hwa. After putting those pieces together, Junho asks whether Miak ran away because she hates cooking. Miak quickly denies that. She says that she does enjoy cooking, just not that kind of cooking. Junho understands that is nothing more than a matter of different taste. Miak bows her head and apologizes for throwing such a heavy story onto him even though it has nothing to do with him. Junho calmly says that it is fine and that listening to customers' stories is part of the fun of running a food truck. That simple answer hits Miak hard. She grabs both of his hands in gratitude and calls out to Mr. Deok-chun with shining eyes. Then the atmosphere is ripped apart. Her grandmother arrives with overwhelming authority and demands to know what Miak is doing there. Miak recoils and calls for her grandmother in alarm. The old woman coldly orders her to stop this nonsense and return to the kitchen. She reminds Miak that she is the successor who must inherit Sohyang in place of her late mother. Miak refuses. Her grandmother is stunned and demands to know what she just said. Miak, trembling but still resolute, says that there are dishes she wants to cook too. The grandmother explodes in anger, condemning such foolishness again and demanding to know whether Miak has any idea how important the cuisine they inherited truly is. Then Miak says something even more outrageous. Clinging tightly to Junho, she declares that she is going to marry Mr. Deok-chun and run a business with him. Everyone is left shocked. Her grandmother nearly collapses from the blow, and the surrounding staff rush to catch her. Junho can only stare in disbelief while Miak clings to him, already looking worn out by the chaos. Inside, he bitterly notes that just when things had finally started feeling peaceful, trouble has come charging back again. The grandmother quickly recovers and steps directly up to Junho. Junho feels the pressure of her gaze as she silently questions whether this young man is really the one accused of putting such nonsense into her granddaughter's head. But before the argument can spiral any further, the old woman notices his truck and the food on it. She decides that there is no need for useless words because a cook speaks through food. She picks up one of his dumplings and takes a bite. The flavor strikes her like a shock. The juices burst out. The aroma lingers beautifully in the mouth, and the balance of meat and vegetables in the filling feels perfectly measured. In that instant, she is forced to admit that from nothing more than a food truck, she has tasted something that deserves to be compared to Sohyang itself. Blood that had long gone still begins to boil again. Satisfied, she tells Go Deok-chun that she understands what he wants to say. Junho blankly replies that he had not actually said anything. The old woman ignores that completely and makes her judgment. She properly introduces herself as Yang Jum-hwa, the owner of Sohyang and the woman who represents the taste of Jeonju. Then she declares that if he truly intends to take that child away, he will have to prove himself. In 2 days, they will compete in front of Sohyang. The battle menu will be chicken skewers. Mihawk is startled and nervously asks whether that is really alright, wondering whether Mr. Deok-chun was caught off guard. Junho looks down at her and says that now that it has come to this, they should just win. Mihawk is moved all over again. The challenge is set. Now the question becomes whether a food truck that chose chicken skewers can really shake a place backed by 120 years of history. Mihawk raises Junho's arm high and shouts for encouragement. After the stall is cleaned up, Junho says that they should head out and buy ingredients for the chicken skewers. Mihawk immediately lights up and says that before that, she wants to show him around Jeonju first. Junho can only break into a nervous sweat and protest that this is really not the time for sightseeing. Even so, Mihawk drags him into a tour before they ever get near the ingredients. She dresses him in a blue hanbok and happily says that it suits him perfectly. The two go around tasting snacks, taking photos in front of traditional buildings, and wandering beneath the bright trees until Junho finally says that if they stay out any longer, the market will close. So they really have to buy what they need. Mihawk brightens right away and says that she will take him to the market she always uses. The moment they arrive, the crowd recognizes Mihawk. People excitedly shout that Mihawk is here and quickly gather around them. Some ask whether the rumor is true, others ask what rumor they mean, and then the answer spreads at once. They say that the little bean sprout is apparently already getting married, ask whether Junho is the guy, and even joke that at least he looks strong enough for the role. Junho, sweating under the sudden attention, thinks that the rumors have already spread this far. Mihawk apologizes and explains that the people in the market have watched over her since she was little, so they are taking a special interest in this. Before the two can get away, they are swept straight into the Jeonju Market Strongman Couple Contest, which has just been revived and comes with a huge coupon prize. Junho gets shoved onto the stage while Mihawk flusters beside him, and then the host begins the countdown and starts the match. The rules are simple and merciless. The couple who can hold a horse stands the longest wins, and anyone who stands up or sits down is eliminated. Junho is forced to support Mihawk while keeping the posture, and the crowd immediately starts heckling. Some laugh that Mihawk should feed her husband some tonic, while others mock him for sweating already and wonder how he plans to last later. 15 minutes pass and only 2 teams remain. One is Mihawk and Junho. The other is the rice shop owner, Mr. Park, a former Cerium champion, together with his wife. Junho sees the monstrous pair still holding firm and panics inwardly, wondering how they are supposed to beat something like that. Mihawk, meanwhile, starts trembling. She questions why she is even doing this, admits that she has reached her limit, and says that she cannot hold on much longer. Then, with a guilty look, she asks whether she is really that heavy. Hearing that, Junho instantly hardens his resolve. He thinks that if he gives up now, it will feel as if he made her cry. In his heart, he desperately begs for strength. He pushes himself far beyond his limit and surges up again with frightening determination, but that sudden burst only startles Mihawk. She cries out his name, loses her balance, and slips from his hold. The referee immediately announces that Mihawk's team is out. Mihawk sadly says that she did not mean to let go. Afterward, Mihawk apologizes. Junho replies that he is the one who should be sorry, but Mihawk denies that and says that he must have had the harder time. Then, blushing, she quietly adds that he had looked really cool. Junho turns in confusion and asks what she just said, but before he can hear it clearly, the market people surround them again. They loudly declare that just starting the drinking is enough reason to celebrate, then complain that after all the years they spent raising Mihawk, there is no way they are handing her over that easily. They demand to know why Junho is not even holding a glass. Trapped once more, Junho inwardly screams for help. The interrogation begins in the form of drinking games. The first question asks what Mihawk's favorite food is. Junho freezes, admits through his hesitation that he has no idea, and is forced to drink. He soon loses count of how many cups he has swallowed. Even as he drinks, he thinks that he only just met this woman, so how could he possibly know things like that? The next question asks what food Mihawk hates. Junho still cannot answer, and admits that he is not sure about that either. The crowd erupts and announces Love Shot Level 2. The onlookers squeal that the two are unbearably sweet, while Mihawk softly notices that Mr. Deok-chun is clearly struggling. Seeing his condition, Mihawk leans close and quietly tells him not to worry. She says that if nobody cared about her, they would have already dragged her home, so he only has to endure a little longer. He places his hand over hers and reminds her that she was the one who said he would help her. He tells her that this is their situation now, so they have to see it through to the end. Mihawk gathers her courage and says that they should do it. The next question arrives and asks for Mihawk's birthday. Before things can get worse, Junho immediately says that he will just drink, but that answer only makes the crowd more suspicious. They begin asking how a groom could fail to know his bride's birthday and question whether Mihawk has been lying about something. Junho realizes in horror that they are about to be exposed. Then the crowd proposes that if they are going to do this, they should go all in and finish it properly. Junho repeats those words in disbelief. The answer comes back immediately. They declare Love Shot Level 4. Only then does the real meaning come out. It is mouth to mouth. Junho and Mihawk both freeze. They instantly consider running and agree that they need to get out fast. But Miyako suddenly refuses with blazing determination. She says that nobody is leaving until they prove how serious they are. The crowd blocks their path and pushes even harder, making it painfully clear just how absurdly serious the people around them are. Junho, drenched in alcohol and confusion, starts wondering why Miyako would go this far for someone who is basically still a stranger. Then, a dangerous thought slips into his mind. He begins wondering whether Miyako might actually like him. As he looks at her flushed face and trembling eyes, the mood starts to change. He thinks that if they really go through with this, then their lie will stop being a lie. The distance between them narrows, and before he can stop his thoughts, that possibility starts to feel frighteningly real. After all the drinking, the market women practically carry Junho away. They worry that at this rate, Miyako will wear the poor groom out, wonder how much he drank to end up like this, and decide to lay him down in the guest house across the street. Miyako keeps calling for Deok-chun to wake up a little, then secretly thinks that if she is going to escape, this may be her only chance. When the room is rented, the owner says that one room should be enough for a married couple. Miyako can only thank them and drag Junho inside. Once they are alone, Miyako tries to survive the awkward night. The owner of the house deliberately lowers the temperature until the room becomes freezing cold, remembers the fable about the wind trying to blow off a traveler's coat, and watches the room grow icy. Junho shivers harder and curls up tighter. Panicking, Miyako cries that she does not even know how to turn it off and wails that Deok-chun is going to die like this. In the end, she hugs him and tells herself that it is only because the room is too cold and she has no other choice. Then, the owner changes tactics. Like the sun in the story, she raises the heat instead. The room turns stifling, sweat begins pouring everywhere, and Miyako groans that it is so hot she might die. Junho pulls off his shirt and the sight leaves her burning with embarrassment. The lesson from the old fable echoes in her mind, that warmth opens hearts far more easily than force ever could. In the middle of that flustered silence, Junho murmurs Miyako's name in his sleep. She jolts and whispers his name back in disbelief, but when he only mutters for help again, she realizes that it is just sleep talking. With him still half asleep, Miyako quietly confesses everything she has been carrying inside. She says that she had felt completely lost and thanks him for helping her. She says that it is not because she hates her grandmother, because she knows how important the family business is. It is simply that she does not want to live like a cog in a machine. She says that she wants to be happy cooking the food she loves, just like Deok-chun does. She admits that she still has to earn her grandmother's approval, that this is probably her last chance, and that she is scared. She asks whether they can really pull it off. As dawn slowly brightens the room, he remains beside her and the quiet between them grows softer. The next morning, Miyako greets him with a stammering good morning. Junho wakes up half naked, unable to remember anything clearly, and nervously asks whether he did anything strange the night before. Miyako repeats the question to herself, then shyly says that she liked it. That answer hits him so hard that he nearly topples over. She clarifies inwardly that she meant the honest conversation because it made her feel that they had become closer. Then Junho's stomach revolts. He groans that his insides are a disaster and begs for hangover food first. Miyako immediately says that for a hangover there is only one answer. She sets down steaming bean sprout soup with a softly poached egg, and Junho attacks it before even touching water. The clear broth washes away the thirst and heaviness in his stomach. The crisp bean sprouts and rice feel perfect, and he empties the bowl before finishing it all off with a sweet cup of mixed coffee. Then Miyako casually brings out tetsukoboki, fried snacks, and even fried lettuce. Junho stares in disbelief and asks whether she really likes this kind of food. And Miyako happily says that she loves tteokbokki, mal sugar bread, cheese sprinkled chicken, tanghulu, macarons, cream-filled donuts, frozen yogurt, and more. Hearing that, Junho can only think that with tastes like those, it makes perfect sense that she ran away from home. While they eat, Miyako carefully brings up what he said before and reminds him that if they win, they would get married. He asks whether that was not just something she said to escape the situation, because suddenly getting married like that would be strange. Junho tries to answer, but she says that before marriage, they should date first. The instant those words leave her mouth, he freezes in shock. Before either of them can recover, a parade passes outside. Miyako remarks that there seems to be some kind of event today, while Junho instantly gets a terrible feeling and thinks that this all feels far too familiar. He starts shouting for the back door and begging his auntie to tell him where it is, but it is already too late. A woman in a full flashy outfit appears, and Junho recoils at once, shouting for her not to come any closer. Miyako stares and realizes that it is Nam Se-hee from SH Group. Se-hee cheerfully announces her arrival, and Miyako instantly gushes over her, saying that this is her first time seeing her in person and that she is unbelievably pretty. She even says that Se-hee is so charming that even women would fall for her. Still trying to process the situation, Miyako says that this is a crazy coincidence and asks whether Se-hee is friends with Mr. Deok-chun. Se-hee immediately says that is wrong. Then she wraps herself around Junho and declares that they are engaged to be married. Miyako goes completely still. She stares at them in shock, asks whether that is really true, and begins faltering as she tries to understand what that makes her now. She can only look back at him in disbelief and ask what exactly he had been doing with her then. Miyako remains frozen, hurt, and utterly thrown into confusion. Mio catches Se-hee's hands and apologizes over and over, saying she had no idea the two of them were in that kind of relationship. 10 minutes later, Junho's cat lounges peacefully while Miyoka finishes explaining everything that happened. She admits that her heart started racing because Junho held her hand and hugged her. Sihee gently pats Miyo's head and tells her that she simply misunderstood Mr. Deokchun's kindness. Then she turns her gaze toward Junho and says, there is never a boring moment whenever he is involved. Junho snaps back in irritation, saying, Sihee is the one who caused all of this in the first place. Before the argument can grow, Miyok timidly asks Sihee if she can borrow Mr. Deokchun for just one more day. Junho freezes, completely baffled. He wonders why Miyok is asking Sihee instead of him. Sihee, meanwhile, looks genuinely surprised, thinking she has never met anyone quite like Miyok. Then she firmly agrees to the request, making Junho realize that neither of them intends to listen to his opinion. Acting as if she owns his truck, Sihee tells Miyoki to climb in. Junho can only wonder how he ended up tangled with that woman again. Sihee links arms with Miyoki and tells everyone to raise their hands. Together, they cheer in unison, ready to face the upcoming competition. Meanwhile, at So-Yang, the kitchen is already filled with tension. Workers prepare chicken skewers and chop vegetables at high speed. The grandmother inspects their work carefully, then orders them to redo it and reduce the plum extract by 5 grams. The staff immediately obeys. As she walks past them, she says they cannot allow even the smallest mistake in today's match, because her pride as young Manhua is at stake. She reminds them to never forget what So-Yang's taste represents. It is the taste of Jeonju. The next day, Sihee and Mio greet Junho while wearing Godeokchun food truck uniforms. Junho says he is ready, but when they look up, they notice the sign now reads Yang Miok's food truck. Junho explains that he thought the name might give them a little extra strength. Just for today, he says, this truck belongs to Yang Miok. Miok is deeply moved by his gesture, but then they notice the enormous line already forming in front of So-Yan. Junho tells the women to calm down, saying some of those customers will eventually come their way, so there is no reason to lose confidence before they even begin. He and Sihee look at Miyake, telling her that it is time to start. Miyake shyly announces that Yang Miok's food truck is open, but both of them slap her on the back and tell her to say it louder. She yells with all her strength, and so the competition begins. People swarm their truck while Sihee calls out to them. Junho prepares the skewers while Miok delivers the food and handles the bills. Sometime later, Junho notices Sihee holding chicken skewers from So-Yang. He asks how she managed to get them when the line is that long. She casually reveals that she bought them from a customer for 10 million won. Junho is forced to remember that money really can buy almost anything. He takes one of So-Yang's salt-grilled chicken skewers and studies it closely. At first glance, it looks like a simple skewer without anything special. But the moment he and Sihee take a bite, both of them are shocked by the flavor. Miok realizes that So-Yang did not choose chicken skewers out of kindness, nor because they thought the match would be easy. They chose them because these skewers are the very foundation of So-Yang. The secret behind So-Yang's success is Chongwobong, a special breed of chicken raised only in their courtyard. Its body is large, its muscles are dense, and its flavor is deep and balanced. Junho wonders if that kind of native chicken should not be tough and dry, but Miok explains that this is exactly where So-Yang's technique matters. When the meat is brined with traditional liquor and white jade salt passed down through generations, it becomes silky, chewy, juicy, and tender all at once. Junho notices a subtle aroma and distinct flavor lingering in the meat. He wonders if they used another seasoning. Mio confirms that they lightly brush it with So-Yang's special soy sauce and grill it with absolute devotion to create that taste. Junho stares at the skewer, wondering if this is what a true master's touch feels like. A single skewer contains the entire essence of So-Yang. Realizing that this match will not be easy, his determination burns even stronger. Later, Sihee holds up the teriyaki chicken skewers that Miyake and Junho worked all night to make. She examines the texture and thinks that, compared to So-Yang's skewers, theirs look far too ordinary. But when she takes a bite, her expression brightens with satisfaction. She wonders if the flavor resembles seasoned ribs. As she savors it, she realizes that one side of the pre-grilled skewer has been coated with a teriyaki sauce made from soy sauce, mirin, and grain syrup, building a glossy and rich base. After the skewer is fully cooked, the other side is covered with rib marinade. On top of that, a fresh mayo sauce mixed with prickly ash powder, lemon juice, and sugar adds a numbing sensation and bright acidity that cleans up the aftertaste. It is a completely new flavor, one that harmoniously reinterprets two different sauces. Sihee thinks that with this, they may actually have a chance. But everyone is blinded by So-Yang's reputation and refuses to even look in their direction. Sihee thinks she does not want to see Mr. Deokchun hurt again. If only she can make people try the food, everything could change. Then she realizes they need publicity. Sometime later, Junho stares in disbelief as a massive crowd suddenly rushes toward the food truck. He had planned to go out and promote the skewers himself if necessary, so he is relieved the customers are gathering on their own. But then he hears people murmuring that this must be the place they saw on social media. Others say that if Nam Sihee promoted it herself, it must be good. Junho is stunned. Nearby, Sihee is taking selfies with fans. He storms up to her and shoves his phone in front of her face. She had posted that anyone who buys a chicken skewer from Yang Miok's food truck can take a selfie with Nam Sihee. Si-hee casually admits that she did it, but Junho loses his temper and smashes his phone onto the ground. Si-hee freezes in shock as he shouts, asking what she thinks she is doing. She hesitantly calls his name and explains that she only wanted to help him win by promoting the truck. But Junho yells that he does want to win, just not like this. He declares that they are going to win with the food they worked hard to make, not by relying on the fame of a socialite like her. Si-hee lowers her eyes and apologizes quietly. Junho cuts her off and says that is enough. He tells Nam Si-hee they do not need her to sell their chicken skewers. Later, inside the truck, Miok bursts into tears and apologizes for causing them to fight. Junho asks why she is apologizing when the person who did something wrong is someone else entirely. Hearing that, Si-hee apologizes again. Junho sighs inwardly, thinking she really is shameless for climbing into his truck even after he scolded her. Miok wipes her face and asks why they are moving to another location. She wonders if it would not be better to sell in front of So-yang, where all the customers are gathered. Junho says no, explaining that he planned to move from the beginning. Both women become curious, and he tells them that those customers came specifically for So-yang. With a special event happening today, the place will only become more crowded. If they stay there, they have no chance. Miok admits that he is right. Junho adds that their advantage is being a food truck. Since they can move, they simply need to find a place where their food will sell. The women clap excitedly, saying it is a great idea. They pull themselves together and decide to try again. Later, after setting up at a new spot, Si-hee anxiously says they are ready for business, but there is absolutely no one around. Not a single customer appears. Junho only tells her to wait and watch. Then the school bell rings. A moment later, the ground starts trembling. The women shrink back in fear, wondering if an earthquake is happening. But soon, they see students charging toward the truck like starving beasts. The students shout for chicken skewers, shocking both women with the size of the crowd. Junho nods to Miok, and she loudly announces that young Miok's food truck is open for business. The students erupt with excitement. As Miyoki notices Junho frying the skewers, she asks if he is changing the menu. He confirms it, explaining that to capture students' taste buds, they need a stronger and more direct flavor. Then he tells Miyake that he is trusting her to make the sauce however she wants. Miyak's heart pounds. This is the moment she has been waiting for, the chance to show her own cooking. She strikes a confident pose and tells him to leap it to her. They begin working together. Junho fries the chicken skewers while Miyak prepares the sauce she has imagined. At last, they combine everything into crispy fried chicken skewers coated in a rich, appetizing sauce. The students fall in love with the sight of the food instantly. Miyak hands the skewers over warmly and tells them to enjoy. Si-hee also joins in, helping deliver orders to the waiting customers. Junho gives Miok a thumbs up, and she returns the gesture with a smile. After several hours, they finally close the food truck. Junho congratulates everyone for their hard work, and they return to So-yang to settle the results. But once they arrive, Si-hee cries out that they lost. Miok tries to console her, while Junho asks why she, of all people, is crying about it. Still, he admits that they lost so decisively that he cannot even feel bitter. He apologizes to Miyoke for not being able to help more. Miyoke warmly tells him not to say that. She says she learned a lot and had a wonderful time, then thanks Mr. Deok-chun. Objectively, So-yang's chicken skewers were so good that they felt like an unreachable wall. Miok knows her grandmother hates losing. No, more than that, her grandmother is the face of So-yang, someone who must never lose. Miyoke thinks she is nothing more than her grandmother's spare part. But Junho suddenly says that, to him, it felt like love. Miyoke does not understand what he means. Junho explains that he felt affection and sincerity poured into every single skewer. It was the love of a grandmother who wanted to leave behind what was most precious to her, So-young. Miok asks if he truly believes that. Junho holds out the skewers they made together and tells her that a chef speaks through their food. Miyoko is stunned by Junho's words. He gently tells her to go and speak with her grandmother properly. After a moment, Miyok smiles. Then she grabs the two skewers and runs off, saying that she will be back soon. Si-hee and Junho watch her leave and wish her luck, hoping her feelings will finally reach her grandmother. When Miyoki presents the skewers she made, her grandmother accepts them, only to immediately raise her voice at her. Miyoki bows again and again, unable to defend herself. Watching from a distance, Si-hee grows worried and wonders if things did not go well. Miyok lowers her head with a sad expression, believing that her true feelings failed to reach her grandmother after all. But then, to Miyok's surprise, her grandmother gently pats her on the head. She says that, even so, it might not be a bad idea to let Miyok show her own cooking once in a while. Then she tells Miyok that she did well. Those simple words break through Miyok's heart. Tears burst from her eyes as she calls out to her grandmother. A few days later, after everything in Jeonju has settled, the scene shifts to Junho's house. He's bought an expensive cut of premium beef that happened to be on sale. His cat meows eagerly at the sight of it. As Junho starts cooking, he notices that Si-hee has not been sending him annoying messages lately. He wonders if it is because of what happened in Jeonju, when he told her that he did not need her to sell his chicken skewers. While sprinkling a pinch of salt over the beef, he thinks that Si-hee was only trying to help Miyoke and never had any bad intentions. Maybe he went too far. Then he catches himself and wonders why he is even thinking about that woman. He forces himself to focus on the present instead, imagining how amazing the premium-grade Hanwoo will taste. But just as he prepares to enjoy it, a violent gust of wind suddenly blasts down from above. His precious beef flies into the air, scattering everywhere. His cat, however, somehow manages to snatch one piece. Junho looks up in disbelief and sees a helicopter hovering right above him. Sihee appears with a serious expression and urgently shouts for him to get in, saying that she will explain everything later. Because she looks unusually grave, Junho climbs aboard without thinking. But he soon realizes he has been tricked once again. Sihee clings to him happily and asks whether he missed her. Later, at a park, Sihee shyly asks Junho to go on a date with her today. Junho sighs and says he has become so used to her behavior that it no longer even feels surprising or sudden, which only makes him more annoyed. He adds that he is not curious at all, but tells her to explain the reason anyway. Sihee holds up her ID card and reveals that today is her birthday. Junho looks horrified by that information. He asks what she expects him to do now, and Sihee clings to him like a child, begging him to play with her. With no better option, Junho gives in and suggests they try a prize event. Sihee declares that whoever gets the higher score can make the loser do whatever they want. Junho immediately asks why he would ever agree to that. But after thinking it over, he realizes that if he goes home now, Sihee will definitely follow him there like a yandere. In the end, he reluctantly agrees to one round. The chick running the stall explains that all Junho has to do is lightly toss the sponge ball, but Junho prepares with deadly seriousness. He focuses as if his life depends on it, because to him, his precious day off truly depends on this one throw. As the wheel spins and the number 9 appears, Junho squeezes the ball tightly and silently asks his uncle to lend him strength. Meanwhile, the ghost of his uncle appears holding a baseball bat, shouting that Junho is hopeless and that he is supposed to be helping him go on a date. Junho pulls back and throws the ball with all his strength, shocking Sihee. His poor uncle's ghost desperately tries to stop him, but it is useless. The ball lands on 9 points, and the chick congratulates him. Junho thinks that score should be enough. His uncle's ghost, furious beyond words, curses at him and tells him to just drop dead. Sihee, however, looks impressed and praises him, saying that he is so cool. Then it is her turn. Sihee confidently kisses the ball before throwing it in the sloppiest way possible. Somehow, it lands on 10 points. Junho is completely shocked. Sihee celebrates excitedly, thrilled that she won. Junho finds the whole situation suspicious, but before he can investigate, Sihee pulls him away from the stall. Behind them, the chick running the stall waves goodbye. It becomes clear that Sihee bribed her in advance. Later, Sihee studies Junho and thinks to herself that the reason Mr. Deok-chun refuses to get closer even though he clearly likes her must be because he feels pressured by the fact that she is a billionaire. Proud of her conclusion, she says that this is why she prepared something special, a guide to going on a date like an ordinary commoner. The first step is modest transportation by bus. Junho then finds himself standing in front of an absurdly luxurious premium President Line bus worth $15 million. Next, Sihee takes him on a modest shopping trip. Her idea of modest shopping is buying him clothes that cost around $20,000, casually saying they are perfect for wearing around the house. Junho is baffled and asks how anyone could wear clothes worth tens of thousands of dollars so casually at home. After that, Sihee enters the fitting room and calls out to him. In a playful voice, she asks whether he wants to come inside. Junho snaps instantly and hurriedly shuts the curtain. But Sihee suddenly opens it again, making him stumble backward while covering his eyes. She teases him, calling him a naughty boy for actually expecting something suspicious. Junho, red with embarrassment, shouts that it is not funny. Next, Sihee brings him to an arcade for what she calls a modest date. There, she notices Junho's attention drifting toward the karaoke room. She almost chooses karaoke, but then remembers the disaster that happened last time. She quickly pulls his head away from it and suggests the claw machine instead. Sihee then tries to win a prize from the claw machine, but her movements are clumsy. She fails once, then fails again, and keeps failing repeatedly. Junho watches her struggle and tells her that she is doing it wrong. When she continues to fail, he sarcastically remarks that there are actually things she is not good at. Hearing that, Sihee immediately becomes irritated. Sihee angrily punches the claw machine frame and shouts that she can catch the prize. At that exact moment, Secretary Kim suddenly kicks through the glass, shattering the front of the machine and sending plushies flying everywhere. Junho is completely speechless and asks if she has any idea how much that machine costs. But Secretary Kim calmly hands Sihee one of the plushies and congratulates her for catching it. Sihee proudly holds up the doll, excitedly exclaiming that she caught it. Junho awkwardly wonders whether that can really be called catching it. Then Sihee holds the plushie beside her face and asks which one is cuter. Junho immediately moves to choose the plushie, saying the answer is obvious. But before he can finish, he sees Secretary Kim silently snapping another plushie's neck. Junho instantly gives in and chooses Sihee instead. Sihee beams with happiness, delighted that he picked her. Later, as Sihee keeps clinging to him without letting go, Junho tells her that he will buy her dinner if she releases him. She loves that suggestion, but then adds that she wants to drink with the meal too. Soon after, they sit inside a small food stall. Sihee remarks that today's date feels so ordinary. Junho questions what part of anything they did could possibly be called ordinary. They clink their glasses together, but after taking a sip, Si-hee complains that the drink is too strong. Jun-ho tells her to eat it with some snacks. A plate of tofu with kimchi is placed before them. Si-hee picks up a piece with her chopsticks, adding some meat before tasting it. The flavor hits her immediately. It is sweet, sour, and spicy all at once. The savory pork and kimchi, stir-fried in oil, blend perfectly together, while the soft tofu balances everything with its mild taste. As they eat, Junho asks if it is really fine for her to spend her birthday with him. Si-hee takes his hand and says that because it is a special day, she wanted to spend it with him. More importantly, she says she wanted to hear his answer on that special day. Then she slips the bottle cap ring onto his finger. Junho looks at it curiously and asks what she is doing. With a warm smile, Si-hee asks if he will marry her. The moment he hears her proposal, Junho silently pours himself a full glass of alcohol and drinks it in one go. Si-hee is stunned when he suddenly agrees, saying that they should do it and get married. Si-hee freezes, unable to believe that he finally accepted. Junho pours himself another drink and says that before anything else, he needs to hear her answer first. Then, he tells her to throw everything away. Si-hee looks confused, and Junho explains that he is asking her to leave SH behind and live only as Nam Si-hee. She freezes at his impossible request. She tells him that he does not need to feel burdened, because she can make him even happier with her own money. She says he only needs to trust her. But Junho tells her that if she remains the successor of SH, he cannot trust her. He says he will never know whether she is trying to take everything from him with money like chairwoman Yoon-hee Young, or whether she is simply playing with him for entertainment. Hearing that, Si-hee thinks that she can abandon everything. Mr. Deok-chun is the only person who looks at the real Nam Si-hee instead of her money. But then doubt grips her. She wonders what she can do for him without being a chaebol. Without money, she cannot offer him much. All she would have left is her love. Seeing her hesitate, Junho tells her that since she understands now, she should wake up and return to where she belongs. But Si-hee quietly says that she loves him. She asks whether loving him is not enough. Junho answers coldly that he has never loved Nam Si-hee. Those words shatter her. She grabs her glass and drinks as her thoughts spiral out of control. Junho starts to leave, but Si-hee shouts after him, calling him a liar. She says he fed her, washed her, and took care of her. He held her hand whenever he wanted, and he even said with his own mouth that she was precious to him. Junho only sighs and says he does not know what she is talking about again. He adds that if he made her misunderstand, then he is sorry. To avoid any more confusion, he says they should stop running into each other. On her birthday, Si-hee is left heartbroken. Through her tears, she asks why he was so kind to her if he was going to reject her like this. Seeing her cry, Junho tries to explain, but Si-hee cuts him off. She shouts that he is a jerk and tells him never to show his face to her again. At that moment, a suspicious van suddenly speeds toward them. The people inside try to kidnap Nam Si-hee. Junho lunges toward her and shouts her name, but Si-hee, still furious and crying, yells that she told him to get lost. When she opens her tearful eyes again, everything has gone silent. She calls out to him, but Junho is nowhere to be seen. She mutters in disbelief, wondering if he really left, and then gasps in despair. The scene shifts to the next morning. Junho slowly regains his senses and realizes that he is the one who was kidnapped. His blindfold is removed, revealing that he is in an isolated construction site. He wonders why they kidnapped him. His arms are tied to a chair, and his mouth is sealed with tape. As he looks around, he remembers that they kept moving all night. This must be a remote, deserted place, which means there is no one around to help him. One kidnapper crunches on chips while another holds a knife and accuses Junho of being Nam Si-hee's boyfriend. Junho frantically shakes his head, denying it with all his strength. But the kidnapper does not believe him. He kicks Junho, sending the chair skidding dangerously toward the edge of the unfinished building. Junho looks down and panics, realizing that if he falls from there, he will die. The kidnapper shows him his phone and points to the messages Si-hee sent him, warning that if he lies, he is dead. Then he scrolls further and reveals the scandalous pictures Nam Si-hee sent. When Junho sees her feet pictures, he thinks in despair that she sent those on her own, and now he is going to die because of that woman. The kidnapper declares that Nam Si-hee must pay 5 billion won for his ransom, so Junho had better be her boyfriend if he wants to survive. Meanwhile, Si-hee arrives alone in a taxi. She is on the phone with the kidnappers. They ask if the money is ready and warn her not to try anything funny. They order her to come up quietly by herself if she wants to see her boyfriend alive. Si-hee steps out of the taxi and tells them that Mr. Deok-chun had better be safe. She says they should take the 5 billion won and leave him alone. When she reaches the building, the kidnappers remark that she actually came alone. They hold out their hands and say that, as promised, if she hands over the 5 billion, they will spare her boyfriend's life. Meanwhile, Junho never thought he would feel so relieved to see that woman. After the terrible argument they had, he did not believe she would actually come. Si-hee looks at him sadly and apologizes. She says she only ever brings misfortune to Mr. Deok-chun. In the end, solving things with money is all she can do. She assumes he must be disappointed in her again. Junho shakes his head desperately, trying to tell her that she did well and that she is amazing. But Si-hee lowers her eyes and says she knows someone like him would have saved himself through his own strength instead of relying on this pathetic money. Junho keeps shaking his head, desperately trying to tell her that she has misunderstood everything. Then, Si-hee suddenly throws the money into the air. The kidnappers shout in panic, asking what she is doing with their cash. As the bills scatter everywhere, the kidnappers rush to catch the falling money. Si-hee calls out to Deok-jun and declares that she is going to save him with her own strength now. She lunges toward him. Junho desperately tries to warn her that there is nothing behind him to support them, but Si-hee jumps anyway. The two of them fall together from the multi-story building, and as they plunge downward, Si-hee declares that she loves him. But, as you would expect, that is the last thing he wants to hear right now. As they plunged from the unfinished building, the wind roared around them. Despite the terrifying fall, Se-hee smiled brightly and confesses that she loves him. Bound and gagged, Junho could only stare at her in horror. Through muffled cries, he desperately protests that he never wanted any of this. The ground rushed closer by the second while security personnel scrambled below. At the last possible moment, a large orange emergency air cushion inflated beneath the construction site. The two crashed onto it together. Security teams immediately flooded the area. Nearby, Chief Kim held a phone to her ear while armed personnel secured the perimeter. She reports that the target has been safely recovered and orders the medical staff to examine Se-hee while Alpha Team moves to apprehend the kidnappers. Lying stiffly on the air cushion, Junho trembled as sweat streamed down his face. Beside him, Se-hee remained pressed against him, smiling as though they had merely stepped off a curb instead of falling from a building. Junho gasps that he nearly died and points out that she nearly died as well. His eyes widen in disbelief as he demands to know why she took such a ridiculous act so far. Se-hee's smile only deepens. She says that she does not care how he views her. She says that she intends to stay by his side and protect him. She even adds that she likes him enough to die for him. Junho can only stare blankly. Deep down, he thinks that she is completely insane. Later, police officers drag the kidnappers toward waiting patrol cars. The setting sun bathes the entire scene in orange light as the chaos finally settles. Standing before Se-hee, Junho quietly thanks her for saving him, even if the gratitude comes late. He says that he will repay whatever money was lost and could not be recovered. Se-hee immediately refuses. She says that it was only a few hundred million won and that the entire incident happened because of him in the first place. Junho falls silent. Scratching the back of his head awkwardly, he admits that the truth is somewhat different. He explains that the men were loan sharks from whom he had borrowed money in the past. Believing he was Nam Se-hee's boyfriend, they tried to exploit the misunderstanding to squeeze additional money from her. He tells her that none of this happened because of her, so she should not blame herself. He then says that everything seems resolved now and that they should probably go their separate ways. Inside her car, Se-hee sits quietly and says goodbye to Deok-jun. Her hand slowly clenches into a fist. She thinks that she acted as if she was perfectly fine, but the truth is that it hurt. Now that she's experienced it herself, she finally understands the pain of confessing sincerely and being rejected. Outside, Junho suddenly leans toward the car window and calls her name. Surprised, Se-hee looks up. Junho awkwardly says that he brought something to eat. He quickly insists that it is not a thank you gift or anything special. Extending a small handmade coupon, he explains that it is simply a birthday present. Se-hee's cheeks immediately redden as she accepts it. Her heart trembles as she wonders how she is supposed to stop liking him when he keeps doing things like this. The coupon reads that it is a birthday-free coupon from Deok-chun. Junho scratches his head and turns away while Se-hee says that she supposes she has no choice but to see him again. Later, Junho stands alone in the kitchen, pouring milk into a bowl while preparing ingredients. Se-hee's confession continues to echo in his mind. He keeps hearing her say that she loves him. Cracking an egg, he wonders whether she truly meant those words. Her smiling face appears in his thoughts, and he asks himself why it had to be him. From the very beginning, Se-hee has always been the type of reckless woman who pursues her goal regardless of the method. In his mind, she is completely out of her mind. Punching the dough, Junho scolds himself. He thinks that he already allowed himself to be fooled by life once and ended up drowning in debt. He asks himself whether he is really foolish enough to be deceived again. He tells himself to wake up and stay focused. As he kneads the dough with flour-covered hands, he reminds himself that he has no intention of trusting something like love ever again. He neatly arranges the finished buns and recalls his original goal, making the food truck's name known. Then smoke begins rising. Junho stares helplessly at the burnt food and wonders whether this is really the time to be selective about methods. He asks himself if he is about to do something crazy. After a brief silence, he reaches a decision. He heads to Daejeon. Standing in front of a bakery, Junho tells himself that he will go through with it. He thinks that baking and pastries are fields Deok-chun never explored. That is exactly why the challenge matters and why it represents a genuine opportunity. He also knows that this bakery belongs to the greatest pastry chef he has ever known. Inside, display cases shine with rows of golden pastries. The clerk asks whether she can take his order and whether he plans to eat inside. Lowering the brim of his cap, Junho quietly agrees. He orders an egg tart. Even before taking a bite, the buttery fragrance and sweet caramelized custard tempt him. The crisp shell breaks cleanly, revealing moist cream and a rich egg flavor layered with a nutty depth. The sweetness remains balanced, while a gentle vanilla aroma lingers afterward. Junho chews slowly before admitting that this is the kind of professional craftsmanship that cannot be replicated through confidence alone. Lowering his gaze, he thinks that this is a taste he would rather forget. Then someone behind him quietly calls his name. Jun-ho freezes, sweat runs down his face as he slowly turns toward the familiar voice. The woman leans close and remarks that he truly has not changed at all. Her finger brushes near his face as she studies him with a faint smile before commenting that he is still cute. Jun-ho stiffens and brushes her hand away. He says that it has been a long time and addresses her as manager. "Oh, Erin." Erin says that she left the company ages ago and questions why he is still calling her manager. Her smile widens as she reminds him that whenever they were alone, she always told him to call her Uni instead. Adjusting his cap, Jun-ho mutters that calling her Uni sounds ridiculous. Suddenly covering her mouth as though realizing something, Erin asks whether he still likes her. She wraps herself around him from behind and presses close while asking whether he still likes her after all this time. Jun-ho's face turns bright red. He tears off his cap and loudly denies it. Erin bursts into laughter. She teases him, wonders what is going on, and repeatedly calls him Junie while laughing as though she cannot believe what she is seeing. Jun-ho stares at her in disbelief and thinks that this woman is truly unbelievable. A memory surfaces. Once, he loved her with all his heart. He loved her so deeply that the feelings eventually became a wound. That wound was what made him stop believing in love altogether. She is someone he could never forget. Back in the present, Jun-ho thinks that this entire situation is absurd because he came here of his own accord. Watching her laugh, he tells her to stop already and demands to know how she can act this way after everything she did to him. Before he can continue, Erin asks whether he truly hates her that much. She lightly places the hand against his chest and says that, oddly enough, what she feels from him does not seem like hatred. A soft, knowing smile remains on her face while Jun-ho's expression hardens. He repeatedly tells himself that he does not like her. He insists that he absolutely cannot like her. Meanwhile, Erin thinks that he is a genuinely strange man. She wonders what he could possibly have seen in an Ajumma like her, because Erin is someone deeply tied to his past. 4 years earlier, before Jun-ho met Uncle Deok-chun, he was scammed and left carrying 300 million won in debt. Bank loans, credit card loans, and eventually even private lenders piled up around him. The interest grew so quickly that he could barely sleep at night. At only 29 years old, his life had already fallen apart. Then one day, an email arrived. He'd been accepted as an intern in the product development team at DD Food Research Institute, a major corporation. For the first time in a long while, Jun-ho thought that perhaps fate was not planning to abandon him completely. Dressed in a suit, he headed toward the company elevator. Even that small moment of happiness felt extravagant. He knew that he had to become a full-time employee somehow if he wanted to survive. Unfortunately, trouble greeted him on his very first day. The elevator was packed with employees. People squeezed inside while some shouted for others to wait, and several insisted they ride together. Jun-ho was pushed into the crowd, and a young woman ended up pressed tightly against him. He froze instantly, sweat forming on his forehead as he thought that she was standing far too close. He reminded himself over and over that until he secured a full-time position, he absolutely could not cause any problems. Above all else, trouble involving a woman would be disastrous. The woman noticed his ID badge and asks whether he is the new development team intern hired this time. Startled, Jun-ho immediately introduces himself at full volume. He says that he is Kim Jun-ho from the development team and promises that he will work hard. The surrounding employees fall silent. After a brief pause, one person awkwardly wishes him good luck while others laugh and comment that he certainly has plenty of energy first thing in the morning. Jun-ho flushes with embarrassment. The woman giggles and calls him Mr. Jun-ho. Startled again, he accidentally bumps into her before immediately apologizing. Smiling warmly, she introduces herself as, "Oh, Erin, the manager of the development team." Jun-ho froze for a moment when he realized that the woman standing before him was actually a manager. Erin cheerfully says that she already likes him and asks whether she can speak casually with him. Without waiting for an answer, she starts calling him Junie. Jun-ho repeats the nickname in bewilderment, unable to understand how things had suddenly reached that point. As an intern in the development team responsible for creating bread, snacks, and desserts, his role was simple: assist the manager with whatever work needed to be done. The workload was brutal. Every day left him exhausted just trying to keep up. Even so, there was one thing he secretly anticipated. Whenever a new product sample was ready, Erin always sought him out first. Calling him Junie, she would tell him to taste it. Since Jun-ho had never been the type to casually buy expensive desserts or snacks, being handed trays of colorful pastries and sweets felt almost unreal. For brief moments, he genuinely thought this might be the greatest workplace imaginable. Erin would watch him eat with a bright smile and tease him for enjoying everything so much. With his cheeks stuffed full, Jun-ho says that he cannot even chew properly when she keeps staring at him like that. In those difficult days, her smile became a source of light. After working beside manager, for 2 months, Jun-ho gradually learned more about her. She was 35, 6 years older than him, and famous within the company. She had climbed the corporate ladder at astonishing speed and had a reputation for turning every product she touched into a bestseller. Despite her accomplishments, she remained friendly, approachable, and kind to everyone around her. Before he noticed it happening, those qualities began to mean something special to him. He found himself becoming irrationally jealous. He could not pinpoint exactly when it started, but every casual gesture, every teasing remark, and every moment she stepped into his personal space became precious. Her warmth felt like the brightest light in his bleak reality. Whenever his gaze wandered, she somehow always ended up at the center of it. Yet the closer he became to her, the more painfully aware he grew of his own circumstances. Debt notices continued piling up, and reality showed no mercy toward people who dared to dream. During a company dinner, Aaron cheerfully says that everyone should stop overcomplicating things, enjoy the food, and just have fun with some pickled radish on the side. As pork belly sizzles on the grill, she notices the meat and tells Mr. Junho that she thinks it is burning. Junho studies the grill seriously and asks whether she cannot hear it. Confused, Aaron asks what he means. Junho explains that the pork belly is practically speaking. He says that the fat is rendering, the moisture is evaporating, and the meat is announcing its perfect cooking stage. Aaron simply asks whether it is cooked or not. Junho proudly explains that pork belly reaches perfection at 177 degrees Celsius due to the Maillard reaction. Aaron flatly says that she only wanted to know if it was ready to eat. With complete confidence, Junho flips the meat. The pork belly lands perfectly grilled. The surrounding co-workers immediately exclaim in surprise, saying that there is no way he actually cooked it that perfectly. The edges are crisp enough to crackle on the first bite, while the center remains juicy and tender. The rich pork flavor blends perfectly with a refreshing glass of somaik. Aaron blushes happily as she drinks and praises Junie. She asks how he became so skilled at grilling, and says that he is clearly one of the development team's hidden treasures. Junho modestly explains that he spent years working part-time at a barbecue restaurant. One coworker teases manager, pointing out that she takes suspiciously good care of the intern and asking whether something is going on between them. Junho and Aaron realize they are sitting much closer than they thought. Their faces nearly touch, causing both of them to blush. Smiling mischievously, Aaron says that Junho is adorable. She claims that Junie belongs to her and warns everyone not to overwork him. Someone immediately points out that she is the person who works him the hardest. Another coworker remarks that if anyone watches him carefully, he almost looks pitiful. A third person tells everyone to stop bullying the intern and raise their glasses instead. Junho drinks with a red face and thinks that since this is his first company dinner, he just has to survive somehow. Later that night, Aaron suddenly presses a carton of chocolate milk against his cheek. Junho mutters that it is cold. Aaron asks whether he wants to step outside for some fresh air. Standing beneath the city lights, Junho quietly calls her manager. He asks why she secretly drank his alcohol for him. He asks why she bought him chocolate milk. Then he finally asks why she keeps treating him so well. Aaron looks genuinely confused by the question. Lowering his gaze, Junho asks her to please stop. He says that her kindness keeps making him misunderstand things. Later, Junho collapses at his desk, tormented by his own words. He keeps replaying the conversation in his head, repeating that he actually told her to stop because it made him misunderstand. He calls himself an idiot and wonders what possessed him to say something so embarrassing to someone who had always treated him kindly. The humiliation is so overwhelming that he wants to disappear, wondering how he can possibly apologize. Aaron calls for Mr. Junho. Junho immediately jumps up. For an instant, he associates her voice with snacks and desserts before scolding himself and deciding to apologize first. Before he can say anything, a massive stack of documents crashes down in front of him. Aaron asks whether he has time to daydream. She orders intern Kim Junho to carry the files and follow her. Junho immediately assumes that she must still be angry. As Aaron walks toward a restricted staff area, he follows behind while struggling to carry the towering pile of documents. He thinks that everything is finally over. Then the papers suddenly spill everywhere. Documents scatter across the floor. Before he can react, Aaron grabs his face and kisses him. Junho freezes completely. Sheets of paper drift through the warm light while Aaron's hand remains gently against his cheek. His own body refuses to move. His mind turns blank. He realizes that she is kissing him, yet he cannot understand why. Aaron slowly pulls back and calmly looks into his eyes. With a teasing smile, she says that if he wants to misunderstand, then he should go ahead and misunderstand. Junho stares at her in complete shock and asks her to repeat herself. Resting her hand near his chest, Aaron tells him that there is something he should know. She says that she never caused a misunderstanding. She says that she genuinely meant everything. Junho stiffly calls her manager. Aaron simply turns away. Their hands lightly brush as she leaves. Junho remains rooted to the spot. He thinks that merely keeping his own life together is already exhausting enough. He barely has room to think about work, much less romance. At the doorway, Aaron suddenly pauses. Looking back, she tells him to wipe his lips before coming outside. And despite everything, love found its way into his life. After that day, Junho becomes incapable of concentrating on anything. The memory replays endlessly in his head. Even when sitting alone at home, it refuses to feel real. The next morning, standing inside the elevator, he wonders if the entire thing might have been a dream. Then Aaron walks in wearing a red top and calls out to Junie. At that moment, Junho realizes it definitely was not a dream. Aaron steps closer and says that she changed her lipstick today. She asks how it looks. Junho blushes so intensely that his entire face burns. Convinced she is giving him a signal, he closes his eyes and puckers his lips. When nothing happens, he cautiously opens them. Aaron is already outside the elevator smirking at him. From then on, the strange tension between them only grows stronger. During a meeting, Aaron drops something beneath the table. Junho says that he will pick it up. As he bends down, he accidentally ends up with his head pressed against her lap. Aaron simply smiles down at him while Junho nearly dies from panic. That strange relationship drives him insane. One day, Aaron messages him and calls him Junie. Junho politely replies by calling her manager. She says that if he has nothing to do, he should come to the file room immediately. When he asks whether she has prepared more food, she says that it is not food this time. Then she sends him a teasing close-up picture of her lips. Junho nearly launches himself out of his chair. As he rushes off, someone calls after him and says that the manager is looking for him. He awkwardly says that he understands. Despite everything, Junho realizes that he wants to get closer to her. He wants to know more about her. He wants to stay by her side. Then reality crashes down once again. Debt notices continue flooding his phone. He wonders whether someone like him even deserves happiness. If he gambles everything now, he knows he will regret it later. At the very least, this is not the right time. He decides that once he becomes a full-time employee and remains in the company, he might finally gather enough courage. Until then, he will focus on work. That way, when the day comes to confess properly, he will not feel ashamed. Late one night, Junho works alone beneath the glow of city lights streaming through the office windows. His 5-month internship is nearly over. Suddenly, Aaron appears beside his cubicle partition and calls him Junie. Startled, Junho looks up. He reminds her that he told her she did not need to help him and asks why she came. Aaron smiles and says that she was bored, so she came to watch him. Junho asks what could possibly be entertaining about watching someone work. She teasingly says that staring at handsome Junie's face is entertaining enough. Both of them immediately blush and awkwardly clear their throats. Aaron places a box of egg tarts on his desk and says that she even brought snacks. Junho quietly thanks her before asking her to head home. Aaron lowers her gaze. She says that lately it feels as though he's been avoiding her. Then she asks whether he dislikes her. Junho looks troubled and says that it is not like that. Aaron asks what the real reason is. Then she asks him directly whether he likes her. Junho freezes. His eyes widen as her question lingers heavily between them. A shadow moved past the office corridor, and Aaron suddenly told him to hide. Startled, Junho immediately answered that he understood before Aaron grabbed his arm and pulled him down behind the desk. In the cramped darkness, their bodies ended up pressed together. Junho quietly asked why she was hiding in the first place. He pointed out that it was not as though they had been doing anything suspicious. Junho says that she panicked over nothing. Aaron slowly leaned closer and replied that they were about to do something suspicious. Her face drifted dangerously close to his, and Junho instantly stiffened. Seeing his reaction, Aaron let out an amused murmur and teased him mercilessly. Later, Aaron brought him to her favorite restaurant and proudly declared that the owner was an incredible cook. The owner, Uncle Deok-chun, cheerfully served a plate of chili shrimp. He claimed that he had personally caught the prawns himself. Aaron immediately squealed with excitement and repeated that he had supposedly caught them himself. She asked whether he was serious. Junho watched the eccentric owner with mild disbelief. As they sat together at the table, an awkward silence settled between them. After a while, Aaron rested her cheek against her hand and told Junie that if there was something he wanted to say, he should just say it. Junho tightened his grip around his glass. He admitted that he had been selfish. He admitted that he had been scared, so he ran away. He says that he cannot keep allowing her to misunderstand things anymore. Then he finally confessed the truth. He says that he carries 300 million won in debt. Junho explained that he had been scammed while foolishly chasing a side business opportunity. He worked multiple jobs at once, pushed his body beyond its limits, and barely managed to survive day after day. He says that someone in his condition does not even deserve to like her. He adds that if he fails to secure a full-time position, he may not even be able to continue moving forward. Aaron quietly reached out and straightened his tie. She tells him that he does not have to force himself to be honest. She says that when a woman falls in love, sometimes all it takes is one sweet line to fool her. Countless excuses rushed through Junho's mind. Yet only one honest sentence escaped his lips. He says that he likes her. Nothing else came out. Aaron looked at him gently and asked whether he wanted to come to her place. When the apartment door closed behind them, the distance between them vanished. Their lips met, soft and warm. To Junho, it felt as though all the frustration, longing, and emotions he had been suppressing finally burst free at once. He held on to her desperately. Aaron asked whether he liked her. Then she asked what exactly he liked about her. Faced with those questions, Junho found himself unable to answer properly. Aaron tilted her head and stayed close to him, leaving him completely overwhelmed. Her fingers slid behind his neck and buried themselves in his hair. The warmth of her body erased the last traces of hesitation lingering in his heart. Even so, something about her expression felt strange, as though she was struggling against something invisible. Then Aaron gently cupped his face. Junho froze. Aaron asked whether he liked it that much. When he could only stare at her silently, she smiled and told him to love her even more. That night, Junho felt as though he had finally discovered a reason to keep living. The love shining before him felt so bright that he could barely remember why he had fallen for her in the first place. Later, Aaron says that she is going to wash up. Junho and covered his face in embarrassment. Stammering awkwardly, he says that he understands while accidentally calling her Nuna. As he gradually calmed down, the haze clouding his thoughts finally began to clear. Lying on the bed, his eyes wandered toward a picture frame. Then he froze. He stared at it in disbelief and wondered what exactly he was looking at. He asked himself who the man in the photograph was supposed to be. Kim Ju-yeon Wang was supposed to be dead. Standing in front of the closet, Junho remained motionless. The realization that Kim Soo-yeon had survived brought him no comfort whatsoever. Instead, it proved something far more painful. It showed that Aaron had never once considered bringing Kim Soo-yeon back into her life, not even for a moment. That was the absolute limit of it. His body suddenly felt hollow, like an empty shell carrying around a broken mind. To him, this was the ultimate punishment, his greatest mistake. Even now, he felt trapped in a cycle of endless death without ever reaching a true ending. The disgust he felt toward himself became unbearable. Driven by guilt, Junho eventually submitted his resignation. Not long afterward, DD Food Lab sent him a notice confirming his acceptance as a full-time employee. The letter thanked Kim Junho for his dedication throughout his internship. It stated that the product development team had highly evaluated his performance, praising both his analytical thinking and his willingness to create bold, new flavors. Yet, despite receiving everything he had worked for, Junho completely cut off contact with Aaron. It was not only because of his own weakness. The painful truth was that Aaron never tried to contact him either. 4 years passed. Slowly, Junho convinced himself that he had moved on. He truly believed seeing her again would no longer affect him. Yet now, sitting across from her, his heart pounded painfully against his chest, the feeling twisted into knots. Clutching his chest, he told her to stop talking nonsense because the only reason he had come here was… At that moment, Nam Se-hee appeared. She cheerfully asked whether he missed her and announced that she had finally arrived. Junho froze. His face immediately turned pale as he muttered Nam Se-hee's name. Without hesitation, he ducked down and tried to hide. He thought that of all possible moments, this was the worst time imaginable. Meanwhile, a commercial suddenly played on a nearby screen. The advertisement promoted a refreshing bowl of watermelon bingsu designed to beat the summer heat. Only then did Junho realize it was merely a commercial, yet somehow he felt an incredibly familiar and comforting sensation. Aaron gently called him Johnny. When he looked up, he discovered that his head was resting on her lap. Aaron calmly sat above him. She asked whether she had not already warned him not to behave like this in public. Flustered and sweating, Junho insisted that he had no idea what she was talking about. He says that such a ridiculous misunderstanding is completely… Aaron cut him off and said that she would let it slide this once. She affectionately patted his head. Junho felt like he was losing his mind. Jumping backward, he shouted that she was completely missing the point. Adjusting his cap, he thought that he still had not forgiven her. Yet Aaron continued acting as though nothing had ever happened. Lowering his head, he admitted to himself that he would honestly rather deal with Nam Se-hee than this situation. Right then, Se-hee arrived. With a bright smile, she called out to Deok-chun and asked whether he happened to miss her. Junho trembled in shock. Se-hee immediately attached herself to him, practically radiating hearts. Aaron watched the scene with confusion. Junho thought that Se-hee was not the type of person who stayed still for long, so he wondered what had brought her all the way here. Then a troubling thought crossed his mind. If Se-hee was after Aaron's secret recipes the same way he was, then there was no way he could allow her to steal the opportunity first. Determination suddenly surged through him. Grabbing Se-hee by the shoulders, Junho declared that he absolutely would not allow anyone to take Aaron away from him. Se-hee stared blankly. Aaron calmly warned Junie that if he continued acting like that, Nuna might end up in serious trouble. Realizing how it sounded, Junho immediately panicked. He says that was not what he meant at all. Aaron shyly replied that he should give her a little time to think about it. Meanwhile, Se-hee looked between them in complete confusion and wondered what on earth was happening. She could not understand the situation at all. Looking back and forth between the pair, she wondered whether Deok-chun actually had feelings for Aaron. Unable to contain herself, Se-hee immediately interrupted. She demanded to know exactly what kind of relationship the two of them had. Junho quickly answered that they were nothing to each other. Aaron calmly added that it was only that way for now. Se-hee repeated the phrase in disbelief and asked what she meant by "for now." Junho hurriedly tried to clear up the misunderstanding. He told Nam Se-hee not to get the wrong idea because Aaron happened to be a married woman. Se-hee immediately recoiled. She asked whether Junho was seriously carrying feelings for a married woman. Her thoughts raced wildly. She was Nam Se-hee, the sole heiress of SH Group. She was a famous cable successor, a highly sought-after celebrity model, and a beautiful 26-year-old woman standing right in front of him. Yet somehow, she wondered whether he actually preferred a dangerous final boss type instead. Growing frustrated, Se-hee told Deok-chun to wake up and asked what had suddenly gotten into him. Aaron leaned toward Se-hee and said that Miss Se-hee clearly did not know the first thing about their journey. Se-hee's face immediately turned red. She exclaimed that Aaron had to be joking. She demanded that Aaron admit she was lying, then insisted on hearing exactly what happened between them. Touching her lips thoughtfully, Aaron said that an innocent young woman like Se-hee would not understand even if she explained everything. Embarrassed, Junho cleared his throat. He told Aaron that was enough and asked what would happen if her husband overheard. Aaron smiled softly. She says that her husband overhearing is impossible. Then she quietly revealed that her husband had passed away. She adds that it happened 6 years ago. Junho's eyes widened instantly. 6 years ago? That was long before Aaron had ever met him. If everything she showed him back then had been genuine, then perhaps what happened between them was never a misunderstanding after all. Quietly, Junho asked why she never told him the truth. He says that he spent years misunderstanding everything. He says that if he had known back then, maybe the two of them could have. Before he could finish speaking, Sei forcefully stepped between them. With a fierce glare, she loudly declared that the two of them needed to break it off immediately. Sei stared at Junho with trembling, reddened eyes and asked whether Deokjun truly liked that older woman that much. She asked if the reason he kept pushing her away was because she was too young. Aaron let out a tired sigh and muttered that they were really doing this again. Then she turned toward Junho and pointed out that he clearly had not come because he missed her. She calmly asked what his real reason was. Junho lowered his gaze and decided to be honest. He says that he is preparing to launch a food truck. He explains that if he wants any chance of succeeding, he desperately needs her recipes. He quickly adds that he is not asking for charity and says he is willing to pay whatever amount is necessary or do whatever else it takes. Beneath the table, Erin's hands tightened. After a long silence, she softly called him Junie and said no. Then she told him that she would simply teach him everything herself. 3 years earlier, Erin had left her corporate career behind and opened this bakery. In Daejeon, a city famous for its bread culture, her desserts sparked an enormous craze. Customers lined up outside every day, and her bakery quickly became one of the city's most talked-about shops. But success came with a price. Large bakery franchises began copying her creations. They sold imitations at lower prices and marketed them as though they were the originals. Over time, customer excitement faded, and along with it, Erin's passion slowly froze. Knowing better than anyone how talented she truly was only made Junho angrier. He asked whether she was seriously planning to give up after people stole the fruits of her hard work. Erin lowered her eyes and quietly replied that she had been fighting for more than 2 years. She says that she is simply exhausted. Junho clenched his fist. He says that stealing someone else's hard work is something he absolutely cannot forgive. Beside him, Sei immediately agreed. She says that hearing this makes her furious too, so she intends to help. Junho immediately asked what she was plotting this time. Erin looked at Sei seriously and asked why she would help someone who was not even special to her. Sei leaned forward. She says that her help will not be free. She declares that once everything is resolved, Erin must give up on Deokjun. Erin smiled faintly and replied that she could hardly do that when Junie was the one who liked her. Sei instantly fired back and told her to stop talking and just make the promise. The two women hooked fingers to seal their agreement. Meanwhile, Junho sat trapped between them in complete disbelief. Erin sweetly apologized to Junie. At the same time, Sei clung to his arm in frustration. Junho could only tell both of them to keep their hands off him. Afterward, he asked Nam Sei whether she actually had a real plan. Sei confidently pressed a finger against his cheek. She says that, in case he forgot, she happens to be the head of strategic planning at SH Group. Junho honestly admitted that he always thought she just spent her days fooling around. Sei looked offended. She says that when dealing with supply chains, connections, and media exposure, there is only one solution. They need something the competition cannot easily copy. She snapped her fingers. Helpers immediately appeared. One of the girls cheerfully greeted Junho and called him Appa. Junho asked where all these kids came from. Sei explained that she needed extra manpower. When Erin asked what exactly she was planning, Sei simply told everyone to follow her. A short while later, Junho stood outside a changing area. The girls teased him and warned Appa not to peek inside. They reassured Deokjun that everything was fine. Junho loudly declared that he had absolutely no intention of looking and thought that Sei was steadily draining the life out of him. Then a sound caught his attention. He glanced over and froze. Erin stepped out wearing a maid outfit. A faint blush covered her face as she nervously asked whether she looked ridiculous at her age. Junho stared blankly before, unconsciously muttering in admiration. Realizing what he had said, he quickly tried to correct himself. Erin immediately caught it. She asked whether he had just called her cute. The younger girls emerged wearing matching maid uniforms and instantly joined in. They teased Junho and asked whether he really called Erin cute. Sei puffed out her cheeks and demanded to know who was prettier. Completely overwhelmed, Junho asked what was going on with all those outfits. Sei proudly explained. She says that they are maid uniforms. From now on, the bakery will become a maid cafe. She explains that combining cute staff with beautiful desserts will create something the copycats cannot easily reproduce. Then she proudly announces that everyone will begin maid training immediately. Junho sat alone at a pink table. His soul had already left his body. Erin approached in her maid uniform and leaned close. She welcomed Master home and asked whether he was thirsty. Then she innocently asked whether he liked milk. Before she could continue, Sei immediately stopped her. She says that is not how a proper maid does it. She explains that maids need to be adorable and tells Erin to watch carefully. Taking the drink herself, Sei demonstrated with exaggerated cuteness, heart gestures, and playful charm. Afterward, she eagerly asked Junho whether the drink tasted better now. Junho took a sip. Then he calmly answered that it tasted exactly the same. He called him rude and complained that he was unbelievably mean. Then she turned toward Yuri and announced that she was next. Dressed in a maid outfit, Yuri nervously attempted the same cute routine. Her face became redder with every second. By the time she reached the end, she was practically dying from embarrassment. She finally cried out that it was far too humiliating. Next came Shunyak. Unfortunately, instead of serving the customer, she casually drank the order herself. Junho immediately informed her that maids were not supposed to drink the customer's drinks. Kim wondered whether acting cuter would help. She awkwardly attempted a forced pose. Junho immediately decided he had seen enough. He says that they should stop there and head to the kitchen because he will handle the cooking. Kim asked what she was supposed to do. Junho replied that they were making tteokbokki, so she should come help. Soon everyone got to work. Some practiced customer service, others cooked, others worked on poses and greetings. Erin smiled brightly while wearing her maid outfit. Before long, the maid cafe officially opened. The new concept immediately attracted attention. People gathered outside and whispered excitedly. Some pointed out that it was apparently a maid cafe. Others commented that the part-timers were incredibly pretty. Many had already heard rumors about the bakery's famous desserts. A crowd quickly formed. Among them stood a bald man. Watching from a distance, he frowned darkly. He thought that Erin clearly had not given up yet. Then he made up his mind. He would simply copy everything again and steal it all. From the outside, the bakery looked like a normal dessert cafe. But the moment a customer stepped inside, the atmosphere exploded into pink sparkles and overwhelming energy. The maids cheerfully welcomed him home as master. The poor customer froze in shock. The girls surrounded him and offered to choose a menu for him. Nervously, he agreed. The maids immediately informed him that the correct answer was supposed to be meow. Flustered, the customer obediently meowed. Seihi proudly announced that Master had selected the Princess Premium Sweet Dessert Set. Junho personally delivered the beautifully arranged desserts and informed Master that his order was ready. The desserts sparkled with vibrant colors and elegant presentation. One maid shyly offered to feed the customer a bite. The moment customers started taking photos, Chief Kim nearly had a heart attack and immediately ordered everyone to stop photographing things. Watching everything unfold, Junho reluctantly admitted that this success was entirely thanks to Nam Seihi. Even so, as he watched her calmly taking notes on her clipboard, he could not understand her at all. He honestly had no idea which version of her was the real one. Later that evening, Junho and Erin sat outside beneath the setting sun. Erin told Junie that he had worked hard today. Stretching lazily, Junho replied that he had barely done anything. Whether he liked it or not, Nam Seihi was responsible for most of the success. Erin asked whether he really intended to keep hanging around all those girls. Junho immediately told her not to joke about something so terrifying. Erin smiled. She says that she gets the feeling Miss Seihi genuinely likes him. Junho glanced back toward the cafe. He thought that Seihi was a ruthless woman plotting to steal his food truck. He convinced himself that everything she did was simply an act. Erin looked at him calmly and asked whether he truly believed that. Junho lowered his head. He admitted that he honestly did not know anymore. He says that he is afraid of trusting someone again. He says that he is afraid of being hurt again. Because of that, he would rather never find out. Covering his face with both hands, he listened quietly as Erin continued. She says that back then she intended to call him immediately, but then a thought entered her mind. She wondered whether the place she stood in and the small things she could offer would only hold him back. She wondered whether she might drag down someone as bright as him and extinguish that light. Junho listened in silence. Erin says that she agonized over it for days. In the end, she concludes with a bitter smile that it is nothing more than a boring cliché story. Junho softly agreed. He says that she's right. He says that it really is a cliché story. Then Erin asks him something. She asks that if she had called him back then, how does he think things would have turned out? Junho lowered his gaze. He quietly admitted that he would have continued loving her long after this very moment. Erin gently asked whether Junie wanted to run this bakery with her and live together. Junho froze. He tried to answer, but Erin cupped his face. She told him there was nothing to think about. She says that he still has dreams waiting for him. She says that keeping him here would only be her own selfishness. Pulling him into an embrace, she says that a predictable story deserves a predictable ending. Then she reminds him that he also made a promise with Miss Seihi. Straightening herself, Erin smiled. She tells him to visit the bakery from time to time if he does not mind spending time with an old lady like her. Before Junho could fully respond, Seihi suddenly burst onto the scene. Furiously demanding answers, she asked what the two of them had been discussing and immediately started calling for Deokjun. Erin groaned and said she was exhausted. When Seihi complained, Erin teasingly asked Junie whether he wanted to spend the night in her room. Junho instantly declined. Erin laughed and asked why everyone was making such a big deal out of it. Meanwhile, Seihi completely lost her temper and shouted that this woman was seriously unbelievable before demanding that she stay away from Deokjun. Sometime later, Junho worked a stall at an elementary school sports festival. Standing behind the counter, he spun fluffy pink cotton candy. Handing one to a child, he told him to enjoy the strawberry-flavored cotton candy. Children ran happily across the field. Watching them, Junho quietly wondered whether someone was doing okay. At that exact moment, Seihi appeared wearing a bright yellow outfit. Smiling brilliantly, she says that she has not been okay at all because she has not seen him. Junho replied that he was beginning to wonder why she had not shown up today. Seihi immediately froze. She asked whether he was saying he had actually been waiting for her. Junho instantly denied everything. Seihi admired the cotton candy and commented that it looked especially pretty today. Junho calmly informed her that it cost 1,000 won. Holding up cash with sparkling eyes, Seihi declared that she wanted a 1,000,000 won cotton candy filled with love. Without saying a word, Junho made an enormous cotton candy. Then he told her not to talk to him until she finished eating it. Seihi stared in disbelief and asked what that was supposed to mean. Junho completely ignored her and turned to the next customer. Then he froze. A young boy stood before the stall. Junho immediately asked why he was there. Calling him Kim Suho, he reminded the boy that he specifically told him not to call him and not to come looking for him. The boy silently pointed toward the school. Junho realized that this must be the elementary school Kim Suho attended. Then Seihi suddenly noticed him. Her eyes sparkled. Rushing over, she exclaimed that the boy was unbelievably adorable. She thought he looked exactly like a miniature version of Deok-chun. Pinching his cheeks, she joked that anyone seeing them together would assume he was Junho's son. Junho immediately turned away. The boy remained silent. Seihi noticed the strange atmosphere. Confused, she asked why nobody was saying anything. She pointed out that this was normally where Junho should yell at her and tell her to stop talking nonsense. Her expression slowly stiffened. She looked at him carefully. Then she pointed out that this was also where he should have denied being the boy's father. Junho and the child stared at her with identical blank expressions. Faced with those matching reactions, Seihi could only scream Junho's name in utter shock.